Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
Look what I found.
Oh, you found your shirt. Look,
they didn't steal it this time.
You accused the laundry of stealing. All right, nice.
Dude, this shirt has gone missing twice.
Yeah, that's pretty
I have
crazy.
reason to be paranoid.
That's right. He's got reason to be paranoid that the laundry stole his shirt. There's like a real-life Seinfeld plot where the laundromat...
God damn it, it's that one shirt!
The one shirt!
That shirt that doesn't come back, Jerry!
Exactly. Well, hey, thanks everybody for being here today. Appreciate you all showing up. Great to see you guys. We got 308 strong in the Rumble chat. We got over on YouTube. Looks like 667. Thanks everybody for being here. Smash that like button. Smash that follow button. Why is my monitor not sounding great? I don't know what's going on. All right, I think it's good now. I mean, whatever. I'll get used to it.
It's this one.
There we go. Okay, here we go. All right, I think I got it. All right, everybody. Well, we got a great show for you today. We also have a film club tonight. So we're doing a presentation on a great little film that a lot of people have never seen. It made the festival rounds back in 2012. It's called The Conspiracy, and it's a found footage thriller / faux documentary about the inadvertent infiltration by a documentary crew of a secret society. It is a gem of a film. I love it. And,
very good.
And so I can't wait to talk about it with all of you. So if you're a member, you got the email. The email went out this afternoon. We'll see you at 8 p.m. tonight for that. But we have a lot to tackle in the meantime. So let's jump right in. Big news this morning, folks. Hegseth uses rare meeting of generals to announce new military standards. So, I was considering not even covering this, but I'm like, you know what? It's funny enough to cover. So remember, they were making a huge deal out of this the whole last week. Hegseth is convening all the generals for a major announcement. What is it going to be? Are we going to war? Are they going to do a purge? Are they going to make them sign a loyalty oath? And then the speculation mounted.
Today I settled all family business.
Yeah, exactly. Then the speculation mounted because we found out that Donald Trump was going to be speaking there. And oh my God, what's happening? You're convening all these generals from all corners of the country and overseas. So what is he going to be talking about? Well, apparently the crux of it was that, if you're going to be in the army, you got to lose weight, right? No fatties on the front line. That was the big emergency speech. So Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth outlined an overhaul of military standards and gender rules on Tuesday in an extraordinary meeting of top brass, an effort that could reduce the role of women in combat as he seeks to bolster an image of American might. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. Well, speak for yourself, sir. That's what they should have said. He said to hundreds of senior military leaders who were ordered last week to gather at Quantico Base in Virginia. Hegseth has made setting the military apart from civilian society a hallmark of his tenure as defense secretary. And while he largely trod over familiar ground Tuesday, the Pentagon chief announced new orders that would codify the highest male standards in training, set specific grooming rules, and further eliminate gender or race-based programs. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape or in combat units with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men.
It's time for you to start to seriously consider salads.
Yeah, exactly. That was the big takeaway from this. So Rapid Response 47, a government handle, they put out a 4-minute clip of his speech. I edited it down to 2 minutes since I apparently have much more respect for your time than Pete Hegseth does his top generals. So we're going to take a look at a couple minutes of this.
Serving alongside troops who are out of shape. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men, or troops who are not fully proficient on their assigned weapons, platform, or task, or under a leader who was the first, but not the best. Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards. They're just suggestions. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go
Tiring to
through
look out
life.
at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon.
Okay, remember, folks, people were beckoned from Korea to watch this in person.
He's fat shaming them.
Yeah, people had to fly around the world to watch this speech.
And leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards.
Good joke. He's doing better than Theo Vaughn at the Beacon Theater, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year. Every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already. But we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already. Active, guard, and reserve.
Wow. Wow. So Sam Stein points out Hegseth called the generals in to fat shame them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They flew in to be fat shamed.
And Megyn Kelly says, and we are here for it. Yeah, we're here for
Easy
it. No,
for that skinny bitch to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Easy for you to say. Easy for you to say, Megyn Kelly. That's right. Benny Johnson loves it. Well, he loves the idea of ripped, hardened men, defending him. An absolute truth nuke from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth aimed at fat, woke military leaders. Leaders. Yeah, and I loves that. There's nothing worse than being fat and woke. Well, here's Eric Doherty clipping a different part of the speech. Wow. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth tells top military brass to resign if they disagree with his return to male-only standards and with DEI and more. Here he is saying, if you don't like it, get the hell out.
Great republic, at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect
if I flew across the country to watch this speech, I would resign.
On general principles.
Yeah, exactly. If you made me get on a plane for 10 hours to come and watch this speech, I would resign. Absolutely. Absolutely. You wouldn't have to tell me twice.
Excuse me, sir. Does that mean no more Wendy's? Because those burgers are very tasty.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what the hell? What the hell, man? Finally, DC Drano, Pete Hegseth brought every general and admiral from around the world into one room to tell them this.
Identity months, no more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit.
Okay, great. Imagine you're in Anchorage, Alaska, and you get the call that you're being summoned for the Secretary of War's major address with the president. Your wife comes and hugs you, promise you're coming back, John. Promise you'll be back. I promise, Wendy, I'll be back no matter what the world throws at us. We can't lose you, John. I know I can't lose you. You think you're going to go there and find out that, we're being invaded. There's an alien invasion, or Russia's launching something like that. And you end up, you get on a fucking plane for 10 hours after a tearful goodbye to your wife. And that is
man, if you're in the Asian command, that's a 24-hour flight.
What if you're fucking in Korea? What if you're in Australia, Indonesia, wherever we have, people set up, Japan? I mean, could you imagine having to fly around the world to hear that? I mean, that could have just been like a Twitter video, right? A TikTok video that he put out. No more fatties and wokies in the military under Pete Hegseth. What was different about this? Now, Trump came out and Trump gave his standard boilerplate, fascist thing. We're being invaded from within. He's sending troops to the city. This is why you call the generals meeting, to announce no more fat people, trans people, or woke people in the military. Pretty amazing stuff. It was eyebrow raising. Like, I expected something horrible. I expected to get, an announcement of, where we're surrounded by Venezuelan fishermen or something. But no, apparently it was just that. It was apparently it's time to get the woke out of the military. That's the big news of the day.
I, Gaius Caligula Caesar, in the name of the Senate and the people of Rome, say fatties out! Out fatties! No more boyfriends in the barracks!
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's very bizarre, especially because it's not something they didn't say like the second they got into office.
It's their whole thing.
This.
Exactly.
Like, what did you need to call everybody in for? It's very weird, man. Now, I want to be fair. Did we have an elite leadership class desperate to justify its own existence by pushing really nonsensical culture war ideas that allowed a reactionary movement full of crackpots like Hegseth to take control and to make their whole tenure about reacting against that? Yes, you set the ground for that. You definitely, the previous administration certainly laid the groundwork for this kind of reactionary backlash. At the same time, they did that as soon as they came in. Like, on a policy level, hey, this is a military. It's not about who grew up with two mommies, and we don't need to put out ads specifically going after that minuscule niche of recruitment when these are not the people most likely to join the military, and not even necessarily the people we most need in the military. They did all that as soon as they came in. Like, what was the point of this other than to direct people away from the fact that they don't like the way you're actually using the military? Very much like what the previous regime was doing. That's why I say woke, anti-woke. It's the same shit. It's the same shit, and it very much has the same motivation to distract you from substance with culture war outrage.
Yeah, exactly. And that is just the only play that they have. I mean, it's the only play that Biden had too, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's really no different in that way. But yeah, I mean, this could have been an email. This could have been a tweet. I mean, we didn't need it at all. They ran on this. They were saying this even before they won the election. They ran on this. So yeah, what the point of that was, I'm not sure, but it was kind of funny.
Well, it's almost a humiliation ritual, which is a lot of what this administration does. Just make it. I mean, you look at Trump. that's how he thinks. Remember the meetings he took with Romney to then not give him a job? That's it. He likes doing shit like this to people.
Maybe they're tempted. Maybe it is a purge. Maybe it's like this is how George Costanza would purge the army of disloyal generals. Just offend them so deeply. Just make them fly around the world for a nonsense speech, and anyone who is disloyal enough to be so offended by that they quit, they'll quit. They'll leave. Maybe they're baiting people.
Well, you might be right. I mean, honestly, after watching that, I'd be surprised if some of them don't. I would be very surprised if nobody quits just on general principle.
Yeah.
And also just, hey, man, what are the odds that these guys don't end us up in The Hague? Not good. Not good. Best to get out of Dodge before the real war crimes start.
That is a good point as well. Yes. Matrix, thanks for the $2 super chat. Sphincter Knucklebuster says Matrix. Jim Taleb, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Jake is still working on getting our app back up, but I do have the Rumble Reigns to read, so I can't display them today, but I can read them. Eric Cousseau says Macron must be thrilled that Candace is focused on Kurt and gotten off his wife's dick. Thank you. Oh, George, thanks for the $50. Oh, George, appreciate that. Let's have a cowbell for Oh, George. He says, all right, guys, I've been told it's time for the talk. First Epstein, then that 9/11 nonsense. Now Charlie with Bibi making an absolute jackass of himself. Come on, guys. Midterms are coming up. It's a cryptic message from our resident based Israeli, Oh, George. Interesting. Thank you for that. It's a very kind donation. Damn it. Derp with Kirk also streaming just now, says for Zan's sake. Hardest decision of my life. Oh, is Kurt's live right now as well? There you go. We're up against.
Oh, is he?
Eric Cousseau says movie request The Warriors.
Nocturnal Human. I would love to do The Warriors. So you know what sucks with The Warriors though? He did that stupid fucking comic book reimagining of it, where it's like you get to the end of the scene, it goes to like a comic book art with the pages peeling, and he pulled a George Lucas. It's very hard to find the original version without that shit in it.
Without that,
and I don't know. And very much like George Lucas, I don't know anyone who wants it. I don't know anyone who wants that version.
Interesting. Nocturnal Human says, Keaton, have you had a chance to watch Superman yet? I have not. It's on HBO, so I will.
I was going to ask you that.
I'm missing the Yankee game tonight. Yankee playoffs start tonight. Missing it for you guys. You should be very upset about that. You should feel very guilty about that. Victor Shakopopoulos says Elon Musk is in the Epstein files for sure. They brought him to the island for his baby face looks. Thank you for that. All righty. Xander Varkov says, following the speech, Pete Hegseth was quoted as saying, I swear to drunk, I'm not God. Yeah, right there. Thank you, Xander Varkov. Appreciate that. All right, we will move right on along here. Some more serious news coming up.
Yes. So Benjamin Netanyahu, before he even met with Trump, felt a need to go on TV and insist that he doesn't control Trump. That's what they call a tell in the biz. This is Zhao Deshui. Netanyahu just can't stop over-explaining. Here he's frantically explaining how he doesn't control Trump. By the way, we have him on that infamous 2001 leaked tape bragging about how Americans could be easily manipulated. So let's take a look at those.
Trump does what he does because he decides what's in America's best interest. And I've said this often, I don't decide a thing for President Trump. He is the most independent leader, an amazing leader that I've seen in all my years, and I think many people in the world see that. So the idea that in any ways that I boast that I control him, that's ridiculous. It's a lie. And not only did I not say it, I don't think it. I think America is blessed with a very strong and independent leader.
As you can see in this picture, the president has very tiny hands, and like many men with tiny hands, he also has a tiny penis. And like many men with a tiny penis, they're very responsive to flattery. So I'm going to flatter him a lot in order to get what I want. Especially today with the U.S., I know how they are. America is something that you can easily maneuver and move in the right direction. And even if they say something, so then they say something. So what? 80% of Americans support us. It's absurd. Look, I wasn't afraid to maneuver the Clinton administration. I wasn't afraid to confront Clinton. I wasn't afraid to go against the UN. So that's 24 years ago. I can't imagine his thinking has changed very much since then. And I'm sure Donald Trump is a lot easier to manipulate than Bill Clinton was, who was a little brighter than the current occupant of the Oval Office. So they had a press conference after their meeting about Trump's peace plan. And here's Trump's breakdown and his modest acceptance at the insistence of the rest of the world that he lead the oversight board.
To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed, not at my request, believe me, I'm very busy, but we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States.
You guys want me, really?
Some extra work to do, but
like Charlie Brown
it's so
having to direct a
important that
Christmas
I'm willing
play.
to do it.
Yeah.
And we'll do it right, and we're going to put leaders from other countries on, and leaders that are very distinguished leaders, and we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, good man, very good man, and some others, and they'll be named over the next few days, and it'll be quite the board. Working, everybody wants to be on it now. I don't know if that had anything to do. They named me and everybody else wanted to be on it. I guess they figure, well, he's a soft touch. He'll be easy to deal with. Working with the...
If we don't put him on this board, he's probably going to kill everybody there. We have to put him at the head. He won't accept anything else.
Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas, but I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. Everyone.
Yeah, which would be a big departure from his administration and the previous administration. Tony Blair and Trump belong in Hague, not Gaza. This is Dr. Shola Mas Shagbamimu. This is genocide repackaged as colonization, just like slavery was repackaged as colonization. Only Palestinians should decide who runs Gaza. This isn't a board of peace, but a board of colonial masters. Bastards. We'll get more into the details. Now, here's some details that Netanyahu laid out that were quite remarkable. If there's one thing we know about the Israelis, they don't mind saying the soft part out loud.
Stopping incitement in the media, ending lawfare against Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, recognizing the Jewish state, and many, many other reforms.
It's kind of weird, man, that he specifically talks about them going to the media and to the international court, which most of the world recognizes as a fair and impartial body. Well, maybe this is why he's so concerned about that. This poll has been making waves this week. It was done by the New York Times. Among ages 18 to 29, provide more economic military support for Israel. 68% opposed, 23% support. Who do you sympathize with more? 19% Israel, 61% Palestinians. Should Israel stop, continue military campaign? 19% continue, 69% stop. 66% say Israel's intentionally killing civilians. So this is why in the middle of this meeting about a ceasefire, he would specifically lay down his condition, stop talking to the media, and stop holding us accountable for our war crimes. And then he goes on, this is very funny, and you see this a lot. We talk about de-radicalizing Muslims. We talk about religious fundamentalism. But for some reason, when Chuck Schumer starts talking disdainfully about people who don't believe in the Torah, we don't brand him a religious extremist. We should. We should. That's very extreme. Isn't that exactly what these people get upset about? The idea of tying public policy to your religious beliefs. Now, Netanyahu has talked about Amalek from the Bible, the people who were all killed to a man, every man, woman, and child, and treating the Palestinians as Amalek. And here he is again invoking the Bible as a parallel to modern Israel.
October 7th, Israel's enemy. Since October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price. But those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples. President Trump just said it. It's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed. And that's actually what is happening. We want the blessings. I think we've done a lot in the past 2 years to end the curse. We're not finished, but we've done a lot. And we've done a lot together to end the curse.
Okay, so when a Muslim gets up there and says that their idea of their society is based on the Quran, we talk about how backward they are. So why don't we talk about, because I think you have as extreme a version of this as exists in the world in the case of Israel, and their prime minister keeps invoking the Bible. I mean, clearly, the whole moral justification for the existence of the state is based on the Bible. It's based on religion. So why do we have a problem with this when it's the Quran, or frankly, when it's the New Testament with the liberals anyway? They don't like to see those things tied together. For some reason, the prime minister of Israel can go up there and invoke the Bible to justify a genocide, and that's fine. That's okay. So what's in this plan? It creates a pathway to a Palestinian state, something consistently and vehemently opposed by Israel, and a future roadmap for Gaza. The plan demands the release of the 20 living hostages remaining in Gaza and a number of those already deceased in exchange for the release of hundreds of Palestinians being held in Israel. This should happen within 48 hours of an agreement being struck. Quote, once all the hostages have been released, Israel will release 250 prisoners serving life sentences, plus 1,700 Gazans detained after October 7th. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans, the Washington Post reported. The plan also demands the removal of Hamas, designated as a terrorist organization by the German government, the EU, the US, and some Arab states from power, and commitment from it to disarm. It also calls for a reform of the Palestinian Authority, which runs the occupied West Bank, and a promise from Israel not to launch further attacks on Qatar, which has attempted to act as a mediating force in the conflict. Trump actually made him call the Qataris and apologize. Other points include Gaza receiving an economic plan for growth, a security guarantee for Gaza enforced by the U.S. and regional powers, the chance for people who have left the area to return, and no one currently in Gaza being forced to leave. Under the plan, Gaza would initially be run by a transitional government with former Hamas members either to stay and commit to the new plan or be allowed safe passage to other seemingly unnamed countries. In addition, the IDF must halt all operations immediately upon an agreement and hand over any captured territories. Israel must also promise not to occupy or annex Gaza. A commission of inquiry under the UN Human Rights Council found earlier this month that Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians. There are also planned guarantees about aid from international agencies being able to reach Gaza unimpeded by either side, though there is no mention of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is backed by Israel and the U.S. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff said on September 23rd that Trump had floated the plan in a meeting on that day with leaders from Arab and Muslim countries: Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, and the UAE and Jordan at the United Nations. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas were not allowed to attend the UN General Assembly, where the sideline meeting took place after the U.S. government denied him a visa. Those nations involved in the meeting said they, quote, reiterated their commitment to cooperate with President Trump and stressed the importance of his leadership to end the war in a joint statement. The plan comes in the wake of a growing number of Western nations, such as the UK, France, and Canada, recognizing the Palestinian state. Netanyahu has labeled this a disgraceful decision. Qatar and Egypt, two crucial mediators for negotiations between Israel and Hamas, said they have presented the plan to the militant group. The AP news agency reported that Hamas negotiators are reviewing the plan in good faith. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority welcomed Trump's, quote, sincere and determined efforts, saying that it has confidence in his ability to find a path toward peace. You notice how all these people hate that guy. They blow smoke up his ass because they know that the quickest way to his heart is through his ass. That's what Miriam knows, right? She gives him that 15 inches when he's good. So Netanyahu didn't even wait to get off American soil to give away the game. Here he is basically saying, yeah, we're not doing any of that shit. Let me turn this down. So he says, Prime Minister, how was your trip? It was an excellent visit, the beginning at the UN as well as the ending in Washington. This is my fourth visit to Washington since Trump took office. This is a historic visit. Instead of Hamas isolating us, we turned the tables and isolated Hamas. Now the entire world, including the Arab and Muslim world, is pressuring Hamas to accept the terms we set with President Trump, to release all our hostages, both living and deceased, while the IDF remains in most of the Strip. Remember, one of the deal points was they would leave. No, not according to Netanyahu, they're not. Who would have believed this? After all, people constantly say you must accept Hamas's terms, get everyone out. The IDF should withdraw. Hamas can recover, and it can also rehabilitate the Strip. No way, that's not happening. On the contrary, and President Trump added that if Hamas refuses, he will give Israel full backing to complete the military operation and eliminate them. That's why I think from every perspective, it was an excellent visit. Prime Minister, there's a question being asked. Did you agree to a Palestinian state? Absolutely not. It's also not written in the agreement. But there is one thing we did say, that we would strongly oppose a Palestinian state. President Trump also said it. He said he understands it. He also said at the UN that it would be a huge reward for terrorism and a danger to the state of Israel, and of course we won't agree to it. Okay? He didn't even wait to go back home to start lying or to start admitting that this entire peace plan is a farce. So Max quote tweeted that. In Hebrew, Netanyahu gave away the game. The Gaza Peace Initiative was another deceptive ruse to paint Hamas as rejectionists. Israel has no intention of withdrawing troops from Gaza and will not implement any part of the plan in good faith. He said it right there, standing outside the White House. This is Jerry Nolan. He's a journalist. Trump's peace plan for Gaza isn't peace. It's genocide repackaged as a business deal. amnesty for Hamas after hundreds of tens of thousands of Palestinians slaughtered. Gaza handed to a board of peace chaired by Trump himself and colonial fossils like Tony Blair. Aid and reconstruction dangled like venture capital, turning Gaza's ruins into an investment opportunity. This isn't liberation, it's occupation privatized, with Trump as CEO, Netanyahu as capo, and Gaza reduced to a balance sheet. The blood of the dead is collateral. The survivors are to be managed by technocrats until they're deemed ready, and the West calls that self-determination. And here's Yanis Varoufakis breaking it down. Trump's personal annexation of Gaza under the management of Tony Blair is the U.S.-Israel condition for pausing the genocide in Gaza. It must be rejected forthwith. So it is rumored, although not confirmed, that Tony Blair had a lot to do with structuring this plan, and that he's being considered to kind of be the what they used to call a colonial governor over the territory. The Trump-Netanyahu plan would be laughable if it weren't so dangerous for world peace. To pause the genocide, Trump and Netanyahu demand the following. 1, Palestinians must agree to forfeit any political or human rights and to be annexed by Donald J. Trump, who will then appoint as Gaza's administrator Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister whose Iraq exploits left him open to credible accusations of war crimes. 2, the UN plays no role except the distribution of humanitarian aid. 3, indefinite occupation of Gaza by the U.S. and Israel in the form of a new occupying force involving U.S. allies, a new occupying force which will be controlled at will by Washington and Tel Aviv for as long as they deem necessary. 5, release of the approximately 40 remaining Israeli hostages with the simultaneous release of 1,500 Palestinians, leaving approximately 13,500 Palestinians held hostage by the Israeli state in Israeli prisons. 6, Palestinians to renounce their right of resisting the illegal occupation of their land. Apart from the fact that such an agreement nullifies the International Court of Justice, which in June 2024 ordered Israel to withdraw immediately and completely from East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, and abolishes both international law and the UN's obligation to enforce it, it also makes a mockery of the recent decisions of the governments of Britain, France, Canada, and Australia to recognize the state of Palestine, a state that, if the Trump-Netanyahu plan is implemented, will not be possible without the consent of the U.S. and Israel. He goes on, and kind of ends on a positive note, to argue they only went this far because the protests scared them, and I'm sure that's true, and argues now those protests need to continue and this peace deal must be rejected. And Elon Mizrahi, with brevity being the soul of wit, I have a 1-point peace plan. Here it is. 1, fuck Israel. Free Palestine. End of plan. Hear, hear, sir.
Well, you saw the 2 words that stick out in all of that are investment opportunity, because that's all this has ever been about to
Sure. It's Trump Gaza.
Right. That's all this has ever been about to Trump. And it's probably all Netanyahu really gives a shit about too. Like, I mean, the right flank of the true like religious fanatics in Israel probably, are really invested in this, total land grab under the Israeli flag from the river to the sea, which is a Zionist phrase, ironically, not a Palestinian phrase in its inception. That's their vision. The 2 blue stripes on the Israeli flag are the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. So they're the ones who, are ideologically driven by a sort of biblical mandate in their mind, or at least that's what they say, to conquer all of that land. I think Bibi is much more calculating than that. So is Trump, obviously. And this is all about money. It's all about resources. It's all about money. That's all it's been to Donald Trump. He described Israel-Palestine that way when he was running in his first term. He says it would be the best. It would be the biggest real estate deal ever. So that's what this is.
Yeah,
he
sees beachfront property.
Exactly. Everything else is just kind of like window dressing, depending on like the political restrictions that are imposed by the moment, right? I don't think anything else really matters to them beyond that. And so that's really what sticks out in all of this. And the fact that Netanyahu put a real smiley face on when he was in Washington, and then as soon as he gets home, he releases this video already hedging, already acting like, well, yeah, no, I mean, we're still going to be there. And, implying like, look, they can always dress it up. Even if Hamas agrees to this and they implement it, Israel will always break it and blame it on the Palestinians.
Of course.
Right.
Of course. You know?
And you have to ask yourself just one more thing, because this is kind of uncomfortable for some people, but like, assuming this was the plan all along from pre-October 7th, and assuming that the Israelis had foreknowledge of October 7th, I also have to believe,
fair assumption.
A very fair assumption, yes. I would say a strong likelihood. At that point, I think there's also a decent likelihood that Hamas leadership knew that Israel knew. And they knew what the result of this was going to be, right? And so, to me, it stinks all around. And so, if they anticipated this in other words, if Hamas leadership knew that October 7th would be used as a pretext for Israel to do what they're doing, well, then you have to ask, okay, what was all that money really about, and who is really benefiting from this, right? And where do the Palestinians' needs to survive fit into all this? Nowhere. Right. If you make those assumptions, right? And so it's a horrible situation all around, and the Palestinian people have no power in this at all. And I don't think it is. I think based on all of this, you could say that really no one is doing their bidding in this.
Yeah, and I'm just going to point out, from doing the research for this, it was a real exercise in media propaganda. I took a look at, I was thinking about using a video instead of an article, and they were just too celebratory. I couldn't use any of the videos I looked at. Reuters is, yes, there's still a long way to go, but this is the first sign of hope. Just absolute. And all of the headlines were pressure on Hamas, pressure on Hamas, pressure on Hamas, pressure on Hamas. You notice how, well, you wouldn't, but I did. In the article, even the one I used, which was from a German paper, was better. That's why I went with that one. They don't talk about how many Palestinian prisoners would still be left in Israel. Only Varoufakis talked about this.
Right.
This is how they brainwash people, like in action. Like, are they lying when they tell you how many prisoners would be exchanged? No, but they're omitting a lot of information that might change your understanding of this deal. The average person coming away from most of the reporting I saw is being prepared to think Hamas are just cuckoo crazy pants if they reject this, because it's such a great deal. They're really not getting into what Varoufakis and every other objective observer who doesn't get a paycheck from corporate media said about this deal. It's a disgrace, and it's actually very similar to deals they've previously proposed to Hamas already. It's really a throwback to old school colonial protectorates.
Yes. But, what you also have to think about is, okay, like, what are they going to do if this deal is not accepted? Well, it's the same thing they've been doing for the last 2 years. And where does that land you? I'm not saying that they should take the deal. I'm just saying, like, when you look at the trajectory of this and you think about the strong likelihood that this was all prearranged before October 7th, at that point, you can't assume that Hamas has the Palestinian people's best interest at heart. You can't assume that, because I find it impossible to believe that Israel had foreknowledge of the attack, but Hamas didn't know that Israel had foreknowledge of the attack. Don't forget, they were funded by Israel, right? So I think you have to think about that too. And that's what makes this very depressing, because it looks like this is going one way the wrong way no matter what. no matter
Right.
what. Like, there doesn't really seem to be any negotiating power held by the actual people in the Gaza Strip. And so at that point, like, what are you talking about? Okay, you could say, all right, well, if this deal gets rejected, well, what happens? Well, the same thing that's been happening. Same thing that's been happening. This is why, this is why I said, and I go back to what I said 2 days after October 7th. There's not going to be a Gaza much longer. But why did I know that? Why did I know that? I was not an expert on the topic. I knew what the Nakba was. I knew, generally that it was an apartheid state and an occupation. That was all I knew. I didn't know. What the hell did I know? But I knew enough to know that. And so, yeah, I mean, this is obvious theater. Netanyahu proved it as soon as he got back home that he really didn't mean anything that he was saying. And what can you do? Like what is the right move? It's a very hopeless situation, obviously.
Yep.
All right. Danny M, what fat general made fun of Hegseth? Yeah, good question. Thanks very much for that. Miles Teg, Pete Hegseth, I'm going to get tipsy and call the army fat to their face. Keep on trucking, Trump administration, doing God's work, people. George from Australia. Yes, there we go. Andrew Baez says it was a drunk tard flex from the Secretary of Douche. Thank you, Andrew Baez. Appreciate that. Xander Varkov says in Russ's Israel voice, no, you don't understand. When we spit upon the Christian, it is merely an offering of our precious bodily fluids. That's a token of solidarity to the Abrahamic peoples.
It's a blessing.
Yes, it's a blessing.
Can I step away for a second? I didn't think I needed the AC. But it's getting
all right, sure.
hot in here.
Yeah, it is getting hot. It is hot. It is warm.
Yeah, no, it's 80 now.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
I'll be right back.
No problem. All right, Ham Hawk. Thanks for the $5. Rumble dropped me again. Did the same with JD. Maybe I should try Patreon. I hope you got the email, Russ. I will pass that along to him. Ham Hawk. I'm not sure what the email was. But they dropped. What do you mean they dropped you again? You're still able to chat, obviously. I hope you get that figured out. Eric Rousseau, being an alcoholic drunk doesn't represent a good American military either. Drunk shame. There you go. Furrow Screen Fire Dancer says those fat generals deserve a bookmark that says I survived a meeting that could have been an email. Yes, exactly. Good one. Could have been an email. Vito says Hegseth's new plan requires all generals to be able to down a bottle of bourbon or else resign in shame. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Thank you. Jeffro71 says, will this hold for the police? Oy vey, we'd have a skeleton squad. Dystopian times. WTF. Yes, indeed. You're not kidding. You are not kidding. All right. Nocturnal Human says a bullet doesn't care how many push-ups you can do. The American military cannot win against Russia. There's no winning strategy, only a change of appearance. Thank you, Nocturnal Human. Appreciate that. All right. All right. Oh, George is back with another $50. Wow. Let's have another cowbell for Oh, George. Appreciate
Making
that,
it rain.
George. Making it rain. Says, sorry, I was just kidding. It was based on your hilarious riff about me trying to buy you guys off. Yeah, I figured it was something like that. Oh, George, thank you for that. Appreciate it. 2,225 strong in the YouTube chat. There we go. We're at 608 likes. Can we get some more likes in the like column, please, to get to 666 by the end of this next segment? Thank you all very much. Worse Skills says, so is this a roundabout announcement for Trump's return to reality TV on the new Celebrity Fit Club? Thank you. Brad Gilbert says, Board of Peace equals British Petroleum equals Tony Blair. Good one. There you go. Thank you, Brad. All right, folks, we're going to move right on along. So Candace Owens teased out some more revelations about her investigation into the Charlie Kirk shooting, and she has a tip line, like an email address that people have been sending her lead. She's been kind of taking this upon herself to investigate. And, of course, on Friday, she tweeted out a sort of bullet point list of what she was going to go through. And on Monday night, she did about an hour stream. And as you could see there, the numbers are just through the roof on this. 2,300,000 views as of this morning, with the headline, They are lying about Tyler Robinson. So this went on for about an hour. We're going to play about 10 minutes of this. What we're not going to get into is the second half regarding a Utah state politician named Phil Lyman. There's just a lot of video on that, and he actually issued an hour-long response to her video just before we went on the air. So for the sake of doing a thorough job on that, I'll look into it, get to that on Thursday. But here I just want to play some of this video where she fleshes out what she means by Tyler Robinson never confessed, and that the whole story about him having confessed to his parents was a fabrication. And she kind of gets into a little bit of how that happened according to her sources. So she's really going all in here. That's the takeaway as far as I can see. Like, Candace Owens strikes me as a very serious businesswoman. She's built a brand for herself. She's built a name for herself. She's very polished. She's very professional. This seems like a lot to put your name on if you don't have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. So I just want to say that before we start, but here we go.
The Robinson family appear to, as many of you guys have noted, the Robinson family appear to be conservative, hence the hunting and the fishing as the sports of their choosing. I am told that they are fans of Charlie Kirk and they are fans of Donald Trump, although this source noted that Tyler, like many other conservatives have expressed, wished that Trump would sometimes tone down his speech and his rhetoric. Now,
okay, so right there, before we get into anything else, in my opinion, based on that alone, she already has more credibility than the people who were rushing to brand the shooter their political foe right away. Because what she's expressing there is some nuance, which is, it comes from a conservative family. I hear the family is pro-Trump and that their orientation was generally pro-Trump, but that the son had concerns about rhetoric and, kids rebel against their parents, right? I mean, she mentions at a different part in this video that, he was not comfortable discussing his sexuality with his parents, hence the trans lover. And so just because he comes from a conservative family does not mean he was MAGA, and that's not what she's saying. But she's willing to indulge that nuance in ways that none of her peers are. All of her peers were just very, very quick to brand this, a left wing shooter. So we'll go on now. Speaking of rhetoric. Okay, so now she gets into the text message.
On the topic of rhetoric, I am told that Tyler absolutely did not author those text messages. What text messages? He has no idea where these messages came from. Believes that they are therefore entirely fictionalized. It turns out, you're going to be shocked, that he doesn't actually use words like vehicle, which should come as no surprise to anyone that has a brain. By the way, I'm sure you caught this, but there's old footage of Tyler Robinson that is now circulating from a car accident that he had. And during the discussion with the officer that showed up, Tyler certainly refers to it as his car, not his vehicle, because that's how most English speakers refer to a car, unless they're in the military or on the police force. So here is 2022 police body cam footage, in case you missed that, of Tyler making a crash report. Take a listen.
Your mom's on her way? Yeah, she's gonna be a minute. She's gonna shuttle over from where she's at to her car and then drive over. Gotcha.
His mother was gonna shuttle over from her car? Interesting.
So in casual conversation, he did not call the car a vehicle, called the car a car. And that was a conversation with a police officer where you'd be more likely to be more formal.
Well, in those texts, he calls the cop car a squad car.
Yeah.
What kid would write? What person would write squad car?
Yeah. And who would refer to his car as his vehicle under pressure? Who would write all that?
Like, that's a law enforcement person who got the job to do this, who is used to writing reports with that kind of language, and that led into the way they wrote it.
Right.
There's more, of course. Of most interest to me, what I've learned is that his father does not believe, his parents don't believe that their son committed this crime. I was like, huh? Excuse me? That's a far cry from what the media has been telling us. Remember, the media presented this amazing story. The father realized his son was guilty, so it goes, right? And then he phoned over a friend to help him convince his son to turn himself in, because this guy, this mysterious guy was a friend and just had a connection with Tyler And eventually they said, you got to do the right thing here. We know this is you. That was the vibe. Certainly that's what the media was putting down for us to pick up. Well, I was told actually that it was kind of the opposite. That quote unquote family friend, who we learned was a former detective with the police force, at least, and so therefore has strong ties with the police station, informed the family. It was that in-between person that informed the family that Tyler had been identified as the shooter. He recognized him. He knows Tyler. He gives them the heads up. And then I'm told, and I believe this, that the way in which he got arrested, or rather turned himself in, was because that family friend slash neighbor slash former detective told him, hey, it's best for you to turn yourself in because there's only one of two options here. Either you turn yourself in and everything is peaceable, or, you know, the SWAT team could come in here and arrest you and things would get crazy. So that's what happened. He went over to their house. Tyler was called over. Tyler was bewildered. He disputed the idea that he had murdered Charlie Kirk. In fact, according to my source, Tyler has never even stepped foot on UVU campus.
Okay, we're going to get into that next. But before we do, that's pretty astounding. What she's saying is that the way this quote-unquote confession came about is a complete distortion of what the media told us. The media told us, as she said, he confessed to his father. His father convinced the kid, perhaps with the help of this third person, to do the right thing and turn himself in. And what she's saying is that, no, the family was contacted by this third-party friend, this former cop, who said, your kid did it. So we can now do this the easy way or the hard way. You could either go to the police yourself, or a SWAT team could invade your home. That is a pretty drastic difference. That is pretty explosive, if true. Now, could she be making all this up? It's technically possible, but like I said, would she risk her entire reputation? Like, if it comes out that she's wrong about all this, that's a career ender. Like, how could you be putting your name to all this without doing some due diligence? I find it almost impossible to believe that she's lying, and I find it, you know, slightly, only slightly less impossible to believe that she did a sloppy job and has this wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I mean, it's hard to believe she would put her name behind all this.
Well, I don't know, man. Her claims that Brigitte Macron was the trans boyfriend are pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Going out on a limb. Yeah, well, I told you I saw the Macron documentary. I found it convincing. The jury's kind of out. You know what I mean? Like, as you say, she's a good broadcaster. The question is she an accurate one? You know, the Macrons are going to present photos and biological evidence, they say, to prove that the claims about Brigitte Macron are false. If those turn out to be false, does it hurt her credibility? Yeah, because that shows you that she was able to do a 4 or 5 part, very convincing documentary that turned out to be false. So then you have to wonder what else she presented in a very credible way that's false. Right now, we just really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, she seems to take herself too seriously to put her name behind this, and this is, you know,
I believe she believes that that's
a much less trivial matter. Yeah.
I don't think she would risk her reputation. Same with the Macron thing. Like, I don't think she would risk being exposed in that way if she wasn't very confident. That doesn't mean you're right.
Right,
confident.
Exactly. Right. Yes.
Bewildered. He disputed the idea that he had murdered Charlie Kirk. In fact, according to my source, Tyler has never even stepped foot on UVU campus. Tyler, it turns out, which has already been revealed, was accepted into Utah State University, not Utah Valley. And that's actually interesting if you pause and reflect on that, because we didn't really consider how on earth Tyler became not just familiar with the layout of the campus, but familiar with the rooftop layout of UVU campus. So familiar that he knew exactly how to scale across the rooftops to duck down in order to take an almost impossible shot at a Charlie Kirk who was sitting beneath a tent. How did he know how to do all of that? Had he been there before? Did he knew where Charlie was going to be sitting and that he would have that shot from on top of the Losey Center? What? Curiously, however, my source says that Tyler Robinson was nearby the campus on that day. I'm wondering if that fact, which I'm trying to learn more information regarding, explains the Dairy Queen photo. Because what was he doing around the campus on that day? Where exactly was he around the campus on that day? This photo never made any sense. When I plugged it into my timeline, it wasn't fitting in.
Okay, so while we're stopped on that, Newsweek did actually report on this Dairy Queen photo. Was Tyler Robinson at Dairy Queen after Charlie Kirk shooting? What we know, and they cite Candace Owens having produced this photo. Owens shared on her podcast and in a reel on Instagram that she had an exclusive image of Tyler Robinson. The photograph, which had not previously been released, appears to show Robinson at the Dairy Queen. Owens said the image was taken at 6:38 p.m. after the shooting. That would have been about 6 hours after the shooting, maybe 5 because they're mountain time, I think. The picture appears to show Robinson wearing a maroon t-shirt with a cap, his head turned. Now, the hat and glasses there look similar to the hat and glasses in the photos of him on the stairwell. But why would he be there that long after the shooting took place? That's, once again, according to an image that she produced.
Right.
So,
also, why are
if
they
you're
still advertising the Superman movie?
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of old.
Photo never made any sense. When I plugged it into my timeline, it wasn't fitting in. So if you're wondering why exactly Tyler would agree to go to the police station if he's not guilty, ironically, the police were honest that day on one of the points. Well, first and foremost, that point is Tyler is not suicidal. He wanted to go to the police station so that he didn't risk accidentally getting shot by the police swarming his home, as I said earlier, in a theatrical arrest setting. But rather confusingly, Nate Brooksby, tells us that Tyler is suicidal. Whatever. Let's just take a listen to what Nate Brooksby said after he had been apprehended. Take a listen.
So I get a call from my friend, and his said, "Hey, how you doing?" Good. And it's not, he's been retired a few years. We'll call each other. It's not unusual for me to get a call from him or vice versa. And at 8:02 p.m. he calls me. Hey, I can tell his voice is kind of shaky. So my first thought is, who died? Like who's he going to tell me that died? And then I couldn't fathom what actually came out of his mouth. So he said, "Hey, I know who Charlie Kirk shooter is. I know the family through religious association, and he's in Washington County now, and we're working on trying to get him to come in voluntarily." During that phone call, some information was provided about Tyler potentially having some suicidal ideations, was en route to a remote area of Washington County. The parents convinced him not to do that, and conveyed that they would stand by him and help him surrender peacefully.
I'm told that's not true. That Tyler was not suicidal at all. He was just confused and didn't want to get shot. And then he gets to that part, right? He then tells us, Brooksby, that he came in willingly because he didn't want to die. Let's take a listen to that portion.
Within the hour, my friend drove Tyler and his parents to my office, where he was greeted by plainclothes detectives. So that was part of the deal. Is Tyler knew it was just inevitable with all the law enforcement pressure that his picture in the news, the gun on the news. He knew it was inevitable that he would be caught. He was fearful of a SWAT team hit on his house, or he was fearful of being shot by law enforcement. So part of the negotiation and getting him to bring himself in was that we would treat it as delicate and as soft as possible to make him feel comfortable to where he would show up at my office, and that's exactly what happened.
So it seems like this all stems from this retired cop making a declarative statement to the family that this guy did it. Like that seems to be, if what she's saying is true, and maybe it's not, and there's going to be a trial, and apparently the trial is going to be an open trial. So it might even be a televised trial. So we might even get to see the evidence laid to bear, at which point this may prove to be bullshit. But if what she's saying is true here, and like I said, I tend to believe her because it's a huge risk to take. It's a huge limb to go out on. And what we're being told by the government makes no sense. Right. So that's why,
that is beyond question.
Right.
What they're saying happened is not what happened. I think we can safely say that.
So it seems like what we're to glean from what we're hearing so far is that the whole notion that he did it and that he confessed to it is sourced from this guy who says that he knows who did it, and he calls the father, and then they explain to Tyler Robinson that if you don't contact the cops, they're going to come here, guns blazing. That to me seems to be the story so far.
It can't be both. It can't be both. Was he suicidal and wanting to die, or was he worried about dying? It can't be both. And I didn't catch on to that early on. The answer was he came in because he is not suicidal and did not want to get shot and was confused, as I'm told. Now, you're probably wondering why the father and the mother didn't speak out to assert his innocence. That would make sense, right? Why don't you come right out and dispute everything immediately? Well, interestingly enough, I'm told that it's because the feds told them that if they spoke out, their lives could be at risk. Like they needed to keep things private, and they convinced the family to go into witness protection. Like, your lives are in danger. You shouldn't say anything. Somebody could, just come back and try to harm you guys because of what your son did. You should go into witness protection and don't speak to anybody. Trust us, we're the feds, bro. And they agreed, of course, in the fog of it all. Why wouldn't you agree? But then, like any good, maybe conservative family, you start going, I don't really trust these feds. Like, I'm a little suspicious about the feds. There's also something else that's weird that I want to mention here, and that is the unusual lengths in which the media and the sheriff's department, they've gone through all of these lengths, I would say, to protect the identity of that former sheriff friend who was the one who convinced Tyler to turn himself in. Even in that press conference, by the way, Brooksby, I don't like the way he's moving. I don't like the way Nate Brooksby is breathing. I got to be honest with you. It's a vibe. For no reason at all, he feels like he has to explain how he got on the phone with this sheriff friend of his. Like, nobody asked you whether or not it was usual for him to call you. He's kind of over-explaining here, in my opinion. Take a listen.
At exactly 8:02 on the 11th, I received a call from a friend of mine who happens to be a retired detective that worked for me for many years.
The business, they call this the Bibi now.
I wanted to get that into as much as possible. Unfortunately, in the court documents, which is standard, he was referenced as a retired Washington County deputy. So I didn't put that out there. It was in the court docs. I was trying to protect even that information and just saying retired law enforcement in general.
Why are you trying to protect him? Why did you feel the need to explain to us earlier? It's not unusual for him to call me, this guy, but I'm unfortunate that information is in documents that he was, formerly working for me and working with me. What do you mean? If he was formerly working for you, that would mean he was a public figure, and this should be usual. Public figures, people that work for police departments, are always public, and their informations are something, their name is someone we could easily research. It's nonsense.
Also, assuming this goes to trial, it's going to come out anyway.
Right.
The evidence is going to be public anyway, unless you force him into a plea deal, which they're not going to do because they want to give him the death penalty. Right. So it's going to come out at some point. So, yeah. And first of all, a retired cop somehow knew that he did it. Somehow what? He saw a picture. That's him.
Yeah. How does he know?
How does he know? Exactly. How does he know? Where was he at the time? Did he just see the kid on the screen? Did you just see the photo that got released of the kid on the stairs with the glasses? That's Tyler. How did he know? So a retired cop figures out. A retired cop cracks the case based on what evidence? We don't know. We don't know where he was at the time of the shooting. Based on what? Seeing the kid's face on TV? He cracks the case. He calls the parent, said, your kid did it. We have to convince the kid to go to the police. That is a railroading job. That there's something wrong there, assuming this is credible. Which, like I said, we don't know this is credible.
Where is this kid's lawyer? Where is his lawyer?
Yeah.
Usually in situations like this, you'd have their lawyer talking to the media to try to get control of the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's weird about this. He says that he retired. I think a journalist asks in the audience, that former friend detective, how long has he been off the force? And he says, I don't know if we have that clip, or maybe we didn't cut that, Skylar, but he's like, 3 years. But actually, we were able to figure out who that individual was. And I feel, someone that we need to get in touch with. We've tried to get in touch with him. The name of that individual is former Deputy Mike Mitchell. Okay. Deputy Mike Mitchell. Now, oddly, despite a career of 25 years in the police force, I can't find a single trace of him in old newspapers. So I'm looking for more information on this guy. I understand that he knows Tyler through the Boy Scouts. He's involved in the LDS Church, and I think Tyler was the Boy Scout leader. That's the connection there. We were able to confirm that this Mike Mitchell lives on the block, lives nearby, as was told via other sources. And thus far, we have only been able to even see a picture of him. There's just one picture or a set of pictures that we were able to find. And that, again, which would mean Brooksby lied a little bit. I don't like a little bit of lies, because you usually have to lie a little bit when there's something bigger that you're afraid of. according to this post, he retired last January. Here it is. On the left, you have Brooksby. I don't trust that guy. Just don't trust him. And on the right-hand side, you have, today we celebrated the career of Detective Mike Mitchell. After over 24 years of serving, 24 years, Washington County, he is retiring, starting in the jail back in 1999. Sheriff Brooksby and Detective Mitchell both had some wonderful stories to share. We would like to give our heartfelt thanks to Detective Mitchell and all who came out to give him a warm send-off. Congratulations, Detective Mitchell. This is the only trace of this guy I could find. That's weird. That is very odd. That is unusual. That is an anomaly. When you serve that long in the police force, you inevitably make it into the news. So I am asking, and we tried to reach out to this individual. We have had no luck. If you have any more information about this individual, if he is your Boy Scout leader or he works for your church, please send us tips at CandaceOwens.com. Guys, I'm going to again say here, we
So there you
appreciate
go.
all
Then
the
she
tips.
gets into the tip line. Okay, so that was about 10 minutes of an hour-long stream. She gets into a lot more, but she does put, some meat on the bones of her assertion that the confession narrative was a concoction. She said that was a fiction, and she lays out an alternate timeline of how it actually went down. Again, if she's making all of this up, that's a career ender. She seems like a more serious person than that. And so, I think you do have to take these things very seriously. And when you think about it, it does kind of make sense that this would actually be because, okay, so the two things that don't make sense are we were told he confessed to his father, but then we were told he told the cops he didn't do it. All right. So what's that about? What's that? About? You confess to your family. Your father convinces you to go and talk to the police, and then you go and talk to the police and say you didn't do it. No, what makes a lot more sense is the timeline that she lays out, which is that a third party calls the father, says, your son did it. We got to get in touch with him and advise him the right way to go about this because it's very dangerous. And so he gets in touch with the police, but maintains that he didn't do it. That's more plausible to me. Like it is. I'm not saying it's correct. There's a chance she's wrong. There's a chance she's lying. I think it's a pretty small chance. This looked like a cover up from minute one, and it still looks that way. And so I encourage you to watch the whole piece that she did. She gets into a lot more. It was a lot of video. I wanted to be as thorough as possible and just kind of let that play. You don't really want to put these things together piecemeal. But yeah, her version of the quote unquote confession seems much more plausible than the one that we were told. The one that we were told just on its face makes no sense. You confess to your parents, but then you go to the cops on your parents' advice and say you didn't do it and you're not cooperating. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. That's one of 1,000 things about this that I don't buy.
Yeah, this makes Butler look above board and squeaky clean. There are so many things that just don't add up. To me, you could really start and end with those supposed messages between him and the boyfriend. That is so obviously a cover up. Then you got Crazy Eyes Cash coming out and talking about how they found a manifesto that doesn't exist, but forensically they were able to reconstruct, which still, to my knowledge, they never explained what the fuck that was supposed to mean. Right. I think they ran it up the flagpole, saw everyone say, "Oh, what? What are you expecting us to swallow now?" And they kind of shut up about that. It seems to me like this is the way you do deep state ops when the ops are being run by crackpots and incompetents. Like my theory is probably they were at odds with a lot of the deep state operatives that didn't like Donald Trump. But they were probably the ones who had real experience for how to run this kind of an operation, and they fired those people and replaced them with the kinds of people that Trump and Crazy Eyes Patel and Tulsi would think are good people to put in those positions, and this is the result. You get a Chat GPT thing of gay lovers from the 20s that people are supposed to plausibly think is a conversation between two modern day Gen Zers. It's so transparent that their own people aren't buying it. The only people buying it are the people who get paid to buy it, like Benny in the closet. People who get paid to buy it and push it. That's it.
I mean, when RB called in about this on one of the Q&As, what he said, it was totally true, I think. And this is kind of a rule of thumb for a lot of people who indulge these, quote unquote conspiracy theories. If one thing stinks, the whole thing stinks, right?
Right.
So what you said, the text message exchange. How about right away, day of the shooting? What is George Zinn doing? Running around saying, shoot me while he's being dragged away if he didn't do it.
Right.
That's a decoy. That's a decoy.
Right.
Giving
The
his past
dismantled
affiliations
gun
with
then
9/11 and the marathon bomb. Okay, so you got a guy who called in a bomb threat at the Boston Marathon there on the scene. What's he doing there? Screaming, shoot me, while he is being dragged away as the supposed perpetrator, which like I said, because I was glued to Twitter as we all were that afternoon, that went on a long time. He was the prime suspect, quote unquote, for a very long time, long enough for this guy to get off the roof with a gun or not with a gun. They find the gun wrapped in a towel in the woods. Phil Lyman, who Candace is at odds now with, he said, I believe it was either on the Alex Jones show or on another show, because he made the rounds in the media. He said he felt that the gun had to have been left in the woods in advance. He didn't buy that it was put there. So if one of these things is bullshit, it means the whole thing is bullshit.
Sure.
Right? If they're lying about one thing, means they're lying about everything.
Sure.
And so to me, just the fact that George Zinn is there screaming, shoot me, is okay. Well, now you can't believe any of it.
They're almost pretty much every part of the story stinks.
Right. Yeah.
There's really nothing here that adds up.
No, nothing about it whatsoever. Nothing. So, I'm going to look into, you want to do a thorough job at with these things. You don't want to talk shit,
there's that CIA program at the college that he was at.
Yeah.
Which, according to Alex Jones, was not the best source. But I've seen it in other places that the college he went to and mysteriously dropped out of, even though he had a very good grade point average. He'd been a very good student throughout his high school career and his college career, has this CIA kind of pre-crime department or something. That is something I'd like to take some time to look into, because that's that, man, I keep going back to Chaos, Tom O'Neill's Chaos. That book offered pretty convincing evidence that MK Ultra is real, and in spite of the cover story they put out, they had that worked out by the end of the 50s. They were able to implant suggestions and get people to act as assassins.
Yeah, and that's another possibility too. It's a possibility he was told to go up on the roof and wait until a certain point to fire the shot off, and then all of a sudden another shot's fired, and now he's like, oh shit, I've been set up, right? Well, I better get out of here. Right. That's a possibility too. That is a possibility too. So, we will look into, the rest of the video and see if there's more to report on Thursday. But I thought, it was worth fleshing that out for sure. Jolly Man Big Boy says, sorry I'm late. Glenn posted a clip of Nick Fuentes calling for censorship of the left. He claims the right wing never celebrated violence ever. I know Fuentes was on Glenn's show the other night. I wanted to watch it. I just did not have the time, but I might do that later on.
They're really trying to push that line of the peace-loving right wing.
Yeah. The peaceful right wing. The first candidate to troll Donald as soft-touch Trump will succeed. Thank you, Lori and Brightville. Appreciate that. Tom says the Warriors original theatrical cut is available in a 4K restoration on Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD from Arrow Video, FYI. Oh, thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Brad Gilbert says, wait till you realize it's a squib tubes under shirt. Thank you, Brad. Michael Castillo says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Candace's friend was murdered, and for that, she's not going to forgive or forget what happened. Meanwhile, Fox News, OAN, and others have just moved on. Yeah, it is very strange. It is very, very strange. Okay, let's see. Don't trust Candace. New York Post published Kirk letter to Netanyahu, and she was lying. It was very much a pro-Israel letter. Yeah, I have to look into that letter story, and I have to look back at what she said about the letter. But thank you, Mahmoud. Appreciate that. CEB Applejack, why is Mahmoud Ali making up an argument to then dispute? I don't like Candace, but she never said Kirk was anti-Israel, just questioning the narrative. Yeah, from what I recall, she said that, Bibi was not reading the entire letter. I don't recall hearing her make a claim about what the entire letter said. I could be wrong about that. I could be misremembering that. Don't quote me on that. I will look into it, though. Thank you for bringing my attention to that matter, to paraphrase Donald Trump. All right, let's see here. What do we got? Okay. Furrows Queen says, my dad never hated anyone ever, at least before brain surgery, except Tony Blair was his one exception. Hated his guts, which said a lot. Now he's way down the list after me and Mum. LOL, kind of. Thank you. Noah Goop says, Keaton's point about Hamas knowing what would happen. Don't forget one of their leader's sons is a main Zionist propagandist, the son of Hamas guy. You're right. It stinks. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, if Israel knew, I think Hamas leadership knew how this would go down too. That's what it's hard for me to square that. Candace makes sure she has all her dicks in a row before she says anything. Thank you, Get Up King. RB Ham says, glad to see Keaton starting to suss out who the leaders of Hamas really are. Like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, Hamas was created by MI6, CIA, Mossad to serve as a pretext for the empire's modern colonial project.
It's like Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, RB. Appreciate that. Yeah, it is suspicious to me. Xander Varkov, breaking news. The FBI found Tyler's manifesto, which reads, the left rules and Trump sucks eggs. Seems like a slam dunk to me. Yes, thank you, Xander Varkov. Appreciate that. Vinegaroon says, Robinson was nowhere to be seen on today's court appearance. Judge looked at his computer, said, and to the jail we have Mr. Robinson present. A male voice replied, yes, Your Honor. Bronx Comrade
Really?
DD is asking questions that others can't. MSM and bot influencers are working in lockstep. Thank you, Bronx Comrade. Just following Candace's lead here. We're look, just like Max's stuff, regarding Kirk and Israel is like, significant, even if Israel didn't do it. I think the fact that, she is looking into this is important because no one else is. I mean, it'd be one thing if like they had a story that made sense and she was just out here spitballing, but they have a story that makes no sense. And I'm not really bothering to tell it anymore. That's how little sense.
Oh, Keaton, you're talking from outside the Shabbat because you can't afford to get in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's move right on along here. Before we do, I just want to give you a word from one of our dissident sponsors called The Bard and a Guitar. So this is a new album. It's a follow-up to Dogmatics. It's called Love Songs to My Favorite Politicians, and it's a music comedy album inspired by the 2024 election. It features Red versus Blue, a pop punk jam that explores the two parties, the people who look to them for answers, the commentators who cheerlead for them, and the ones who are caught in the middle. Yeshua, a pop song that argues that Jesus was possibly a commie libertarian. One Asshole, Two Cheeks, a romantic ballad, a love letter to Trump and Obama. Naturally Born Killers is a jazzy track about baby killers. Well, not babies that kill, but killers of babies. Econ 101, a hip-hop verse about economics, and more. Find Love Songs to My Favorite Politicians by A Bard and a Guitar on most streaming services or YouTube. If you're interested, find it on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, a link that'll take you to a landing page with all links, dudissidents.com/Bard. Please go check it out and give it a listen. All righty, let's move right on along here. What's next? Oh yeah, the ADL. They should sponsor the show. We should do ad reads for the ADL.
I mean, I've been having conversations. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So you may know this famous quote by William Clay. This is quite a game, politics. There are no permanent enemies and no permanent friends, only permanent interests. Well, keep that in mind. So here is Elon. You may remember this. Got in a little hot water a few months back.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
He was just offering his heart. He's just offering his heart to the crowd. But you know who backed him up on that? The ADL. The ADL. This is a delicate moment. It's a new day, and yet so many are on edge. Our politics are inflamed, and social media only adds to the anxiety. It seems that Elon Musk made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, not a Nazi salute. But again, we appreciate that people are on edge. In this moment, all sides should give one another a bit of grace, perhaps even the benefit of the doubt, because that's what the ADL is known for, giving people the benefit of the doubt. And take a breath. This is a new beginning. Let's hope for healing and work toward unity in the months and years ahead. And Elon thanked them, weirdly with a laugh emoji afterwards. But okay. But hey, here we are. New day. And Elon does not see supporting the ADL as being part of his permanent interests, apparently. Musk calls Anti-Defamation League hate group for documenting Christian extremism. So let's see what's going on here. I am, yes, Uareno. The ADL considers Christianity a hateful terrorist extremist belief. You don't hate the ADL enough. And he has this screenshot, which, remember this is going to become important later. He doesn't show you, and nobody who tweeted this shows you what the body of the text is. They only show you the header. This is as good an example as you could find of the fact that you don't hate these influencers enough. You don't hate these online personalities enough because they think nothing of misinforming people with this kind of rage bait in order to build their following. And when you're talking about someone like Elon, who's playing a much bigger game than this schmuck is, it's to manipulate and control your mind. The more they're able to just press buttons and get you to react the way that they want you to react, the more they're able to deploy mass numbers of confused people to whatever purpose they want. This is why Elon would address the Unite the Kingdom rally and really come as close to telling them to go out and commit acts of violence as you could get without literally saying the words. You're going to have no choice but to be violent. Violence is going to come for you. But we'll show you what the rest of this actually is, but keep that in mind. So he responded to that actual tweet. The ADL hates Christians, therefore it is a hate group. Libs of TikTok. WTF, the ADL lists Charlie's org Turning Point USA in their glossary of extremism and hate. No words. Matt Gaetz picked up on this, quote, tweeted it. The ADL is a hate group. Right Angle News Network breaking. The ADL is just labeled Christians and Charlie Kirk's TPUSA as organizations that promote hate and extremism. To be clear, this, that was a shocking headline, right? Really, at this moment, they decided to do that? And that's the intention, to make you think that because Charlie Kirk expressed some opinions about Israel that don't conform to Zionist orthodoxy, that now they label. No. It's been up there for years. It's been up there like that since 2019. And somebody decided they could get a couple of days of rage bait out of it on X. So they made a big thing out of it all of a sudden. Fat tub of shit, Jeremy over at the Quartering. I guess he's having a sale on French roast. Decided to weigh in on this. The ADL is the enemy of the people. Hey guys, I'm still here. Please notice me. Anna Paulina Luna. This is wrong, ADL. You are intentionally creating a targeted hate campaign against Christians. Okay, Amuse, honing in on the Turning Point angle, which actually is at least factual, even though they're making it seem as if this is a recent development. Hate. The organization I least associate with hate is the late Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. But it should be no surprise that Jonathan Greenblatt's ADL classifies TPUSA as a hate group, since he also classifies Christianity as a hate group as well. The ADL is a defamatory hate group that needs to be targeted more by those it classifies as domestic extremists. Well, you wanted to get in bed with these guys. You wanted to get in bed with these guys, Zionists. Here you go. Here you go. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that the right-wing grifters that you decided to use to promote your cause because you thought that was going to be convenient. I can't believe this is coming back to bite you in the ass. I can't believe a bunch of reactionaries digging into some of your other supported missions are turning on you now. Who could have seen that coming? So yes, this is from their page about Turning Point. Turning Point USA is a right-wing student organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk. It's raised millions from conservative donors, has played a significant role in GOP politics. Since the group's founding, Kirk has moved further to the right and has promoted numerous conspiracy theories about election fraud and COVID-19 and has demonized the transgender community. Kirk also promotes Christian nationalism, the idea that Christians should dominate the government in other areas of life in the U.S. TPUSA continues to attract racists to the group. Numerous TPUSA representatives have made bigoted remarks about minority groups and the LGBTQ plus community. White nationalists have attended TPUSA events, even though the group says it rejects white supremacist ideology. Kirk has created a vast platform for extremists and far-right conspiracy theorists who speak and attend his annual America Fest and other events sponsored by TPUSA. We'll get back to this. So, libs of TikTok, ADL on Antifa. They're not really normally violent or extreme. ADL on TPUSA. They're an extremist hate group. The ADL is a total joke. So here in their entry on Antifa, they say, while some Antifa adherents have engaged in violence or vandalism at rallies and events, this is not the norm. Now, okay, we want to be fair. Now, first of all, the idea that Antifa is an organization, that is false. There is no Antifa organization. There are no chapters. There are no invites. There are no flyers to come join this chapter of Antifa. It's an idea. And that's part of what is so dangerous when the administration says it wants to target Antifa, because that could be anything, right? That could be anybody. You could define anything as Antifa. Now, to go out of your way to say that Antifa has not been invited, yeah, I mean, generally, they're not going to commit an act of violence, but would they say that about white supremacist groups? Like, white supremacist groups generally will just march. Like, they generally don't commit an act of violence. They go out of their way to say that about those groups. So if you want to make an argument that they have a different slant on things that liberals, not the left, we're the left, liberals are more sympathetic to, yeah, absolutely, but this is what you're missing, which I will get to. So these were responses to this tweet. Musk, wow, totally insane. Libs of TikTok, it's straight up evil. Gunther Eagleman, the ADL is garbage. That cat, man, that guy is living the dream. That guy is living the dream. Like, literally, AI could do what he does. He's the human rage bait bot.
Easy money.
Easy money, more money, more money. So Royce Lopez, good catch. Crazy. Hey, remember not too long ago when you were telling people how they could report students to the ADL? Because I do. And here's Libs of TikTok, run by Taylor Lorenz in a bizarro universe. What's her name? Kaya Rychek?
Yeah, Kaya Rychek, yeah.
Breaking, ADL California has responded to Jewish students being harassed at school for being Jewish and then receiving a gag order regarding the incident. They joined in calling on MBUSD News to take action. You can also file a complaint about the school on the ADL's website here. You see, and now we kept pointing out the whole time that all of these grifters these anti-woke douchebag dialogue, intellectual dark web grifters were making common cause with the Zionists. Well, I thought you people are anti-woke. This is the wokest shit there is. Look at how easily they made alliance with these people. Oh, do you see they're making these Jewish students uncomfortable. Call the ADL. Now all of a sudden they're finding out that they're woke.
They're libs.
Woke.
Yes, they're libs. That's the big twist, is that the ADL are woke libs.
Right.
Yes.
What did you think they were?
Yeah.
What did you think they were? Paul Reardon, he pulls it all together here. The ADL needs to be investigated. They won't even define Black Lives Matter, a Marxist group. I wouldn't say that. If only
Got nice
they had
houses for a Marxist group.
Yeah, if only they had that fully articulated a political philosophy, they might still exist in a meaningful way. That caused $2.2 billion in damages. When you search for BLM or Black Lives Matter, all you get is a redirect to white supremacy tags. Meanwhile, they have a description for TPUSA under the glossary of hate terms. Clearly a left-wing wordsmithing hate group themselves and should be investigated and defunded. This is where CNN and MSNBC get their data to convince low IQ Americans, well, unlike you folks, that 76% of all extremist violence comes from white Christian nationalists, etc. They have every conservative group classified under white racism. They are the leading arm of projecting racial hate, and they do it under the guise of anti-defamation. Not one Antifa or BLM riot was added to their database. This type of rhetoric is contributing to radicalizing left-wing activism and violence. You see, what happened to ADL here is they got swept into the narrative management that is being led by people like Matt Walsh to blame groups like them for inciting the kind of violence that took Charlie Kirk's life by calling people with their beliefs Nazis and fascists. Well, hey, man, who do you think the ADL generally hangs out with? It's not you guys. It's fucking Chucky the Shoom. Chucky the Shoom. There he is at the ADL summit in New York holding his book, Anti-Semitism in America, on stage. That's earlier this year. This is who the ADL is. And hey, sunshine, this is who most American Jews are. Most American Jews are libs with a bizarre carve-out for Israel, which violates every lib principle. They take the woke safe space part of the libs' beliefs and just completely light the anti-colonial part on fire and ignore that element of the Jewish project. The way they'll get around that is if you confront them with that, they'll say, we are the indigenous people. I shit you not. That's what they'll say. How could we be the colonizers? We're the indigenous people. We're the people who were colonized by the Muslims who invaded our land. That's how they get around that contradiction.
And and this is why the pro-Israel right branding the anti-Israel right as the woke right is just so laughable, absurd,
ridiculous,
and backwards.
Ridiculous.
Because no, you're the woke right, as evidenced by the fact that you are willing to hold hands with a woke lib outfit like the ADL when it suits your ends, which is the promulgation of Zionism. So it's the complete so you guys are the woke right, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
So there have been a lot of memes like this compiling stuff from the ADL. Is it anti-white? It's anti-white to the extent that the libs are anti-white. Like this is all your Ibram X. Kendi, Robin DiAngelo, white lives matter, is a hate speech. It's okay to be white is hate speech. Like whatever your opinion about that, this is not ADL stuff. This is lib stuff. The ADL is made up of libs. They're funded by libs. They tend to align with Democrats. They'll take your conservative GOP money. They'll hang out with you if you're supporting whatever they're trying to push, particularly Israel. But yeah, man, this is who they are because this is who most American Jews are. Like, yes, you do have Republican Jews. It's a very small minority. I'm sure it's grown since October 7th. It's still a minority. This is why you would have Juliana Margulies writing this whole screed about how she marched for gays and blacks and how horrified she was that they weren't there for her, not understanding that Israel is a violation of the core principles those movements that she claimed to be in solidarity with stand for.
Right. Or another good example, sorry to slow the segment down, but Michael Rappaport. Michael Rappaport would rant constantly about Trump being a race. You're racist, you're sexist, you're homophobic. And then when Israel was feeling the heat, all of a sudden he sounded like a MAGA guy. Why? Because now it suited his aims to defend Israel. But Michael Rappaport's another lib. Like they're mostly lib.
Right. Most of them are. Most of them are. Not some of them. Most of them.
Yeah.
Here's another one from the same account that Elon kept going back and forth with. Yes, a racist definition of racism, and the definition here under the ADL website, the marginalization and or oppression of people of color based on a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people. Yeah, man, this is all postmodern gobbledygook. I agree. I don't think that's a good definition of racism. I think it's a way that racism is expressed in certain contexts, like the American context. But this is the same thinking that tells you you can't be racist against white people. And I think that's a real abuse of the English language. Racism at its most elemental is judging someone because of their race. It's that simple. That putting this kind of scaffolding onto it, yeah, it's very woke. That's who these people are. That's who these people are. And this is where it starts to get dangerous for these groups, because you can see how they're trying to tie them to this assassination. Pericles. Even after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the ADL still lists Turning Point USA as a hate group. They have blood on their hands. Well, what do you do with people who have blood on their hands, right? And Elon, this is his response to that. ADL needs to stop their anti-white racism now. We also need to stop the white genocide. So Turning Point's under this pressure. They did change their listing somewhat, not as much as you might think, because again, they're basically libs. This is what they believe, essentially. Like what they said about Turning Point USA, that's what they believe about Turning Point USA. They back down some on the claims about Kirk. Kirk promoted Christian nationalism. Like I said, they didn't come down from that. Individuals associated with TPUSA have a history of bigoted statements about the black community, so-and-so. This is what they really changed. While TPUSA repeatedly has stated that it rejects white supremacist ideology, white nationalists openly have attended their events. Moreover, extremists and far-right conspiracy theorists have been featured at the America Fest conference and other TPUSA events. However, it should be noted that Kirk himself publicly condemned such groups, insisting that they did not represent TPUSA in their beliefs. So that was their concession to the backlash. However, and this is where you know you really fucked up, when you actually have put the ADL in a position where they're taking the high road, wow, man, you went pretty low when you gave the ADL the opportunity to come off as the reasonable ones. Christian identity is a virulently anti-Semitic and loosely organized movement that has nothing to do with mainstream Christianity. The screenshot being shared by some is completely and purposely misleading. The FBI and other experts have all been tracking this movement for years because it has inspired people to violence. And yeah, man, this is right under the screenshot. So there's no way they missed it. There's no way they just saw that. What scumbags, man. Like, no matter what your beliefs are, no matter what your ideology is, do you see what these people did to you if you fell into this? All these people, you think they did not see what the body of the text was? But they didn't show that to you. That is how little they think of you, man. You're like an insect to them. They just want you to buzz around whatever subject of rage they want to give you. And for the real ruling class like Elon, that keeps you misdirected so they can keep running things without you interfering with their wealth and with their power. That's why they do that to you. This is the actual text under the screenshot. Christian identity is a religious ideology popular in extreme right-wing circles. Adherents believe that whites of European descent can be traced back to the lost tribes of Israel. Many consider Jews to be the satanic offspring of Eve and the serpent, while non-whites are mud peoples created before Adam and Eve. Its virulent, racist, and anti-Semitic beliefs are usually accompanied by extreme anti-government sentiments. Despite its small size, Christian identity influences virtually all white supremacist and extreme anti-government movements. It has also informed criminal behavior ranging from hate crimes to acts of terrorism. Now, I've never heard of this group before. This aside, this could all be false. It doesn't matter. They presented it to you as if they were defining Christian identity as being a hate group by definition, that is hateful. And that's intentional. That is quite intentional. There's no way they didn't see this right under that.
Right. Well, the key distinction is that, yes, like on Twitter, they would have you believe that Christian identity is a concept, right? Whereas it's not a concept. According to the ADL, Christian identity is a proper noun representing a group.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is how bullshit spreads on X, man. You can't take a screenshot of face value. Always have to check. Always have to check.
All these people, Matt Gaetz, all these people sharing this shit with you. So here's Greenblatt.
I'm sure a lot of them never bothered to check. I'm sure some of them did.
Well, that's
but
true.
I'm sure a lot of them just didn't bother. Oh, well, look at this. Same thing, man, with the RFK shit at the hearings with the you take pharma money. They show a screenshot of pharma money. They don't investigate what that actually means the way we did. No, they just, it's a screen. Oh, look, retweet. Right. That's it.
Which, again, and these people have a much bigger platform than we do. And I feel a responsibility to look into things.
You have to look into
share
it. Yeah.
You don't?
Yeah.
So that's really not an excuse either. So Jonathan Greenblatt, the idea that ADL is anti-Christian is offensive and wrong. Many of our staff members are Christian. Many of our supporters are Christian. We are blessed to work with many Christian brothers and sisters in the shared fight against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate. In contrast, the Christian identity movement is an anti-Semitic, racist, and unambiguously poisonous ideology. Its values bear no resemblance to those of any mainstream Christian denomination. Okay, so now look, Jonathan Greenblatt is the scum of the earth, but his beliefs are very typical of American Jews, and American Jews do tend to believe in the, as long as you support Israel, as long as you don't push back on their ideology, sure, yeah, we can all live together, just don't date my daughter and we're all good, right? But there is a group that is virulently anti-Christian that you don't see Elon saying boo about these days, right? Ben Gvir, Israelis spitting on Christians is an old Jewish tradition. Now, that's not a tradition I ever heard of. That might be an old Israeli tradition. Rabbis take stand against spitting at Christians in Jerusalem's Old City. We just showed on a segment the other day, Officer Tatum bragging about the fact that he only got spit on once when he went to Israel. That was a good thing. Burning of Christian churches in Israel justified, far-right Jewish leader says. And look, man, one of the oldest Christian churches in the world stood for 1,000 years under the Muslims, destroyed now under the Israelis, and they've destroyed most of the churches in the areas that they occupy. I think they bombed every single church in Gaza now. Well, maybe this is why Elon doesn't talk about it. Elon Musk has confirmed he serves Israel. This is from Megatron. Quote, "We have no choice but to eliminate the people who would oppose the state of Israel. He said this in the interview with the German AfD leader. Now, you might remember he did the whole trip. He went to the October 7th site. He fucked the wall. He went with Shapiro to Auschwitz. He did the whole humiliation ritual tour. And it was weird. It was weird because this was at the time advertisers were pulling out, claiming he shared an anti-Semitic tweet. But this is the guy who went up on stage and told Bob Iger to go fuck himself when Disney pulled their advertising. It was very weird how all of a sudden he did this 180. Well, we don't know, but this week we might have gotten an explanation. This is Jeffrey Epstein's appointment book. December 6, 2014. Reminder, Elon Musk to Island, December 6th. Is this still happening? There are pictures of him with Ghislaine. Does that mean he did anything? We don't know, but it's very out of character that Elon fully bent the knee the way that he did. So this is another dimension of this you have to remember. Why did Elon jump on this? Why did Elon jump on this? Because he knows that everybody is saying they got something on him, right? That appointment calendar just came out this week. He can attack the ADL without attacking Israel and try to pretend he has some independence from Zionists in that way. But do you see him saying shit about Netanyahu? They just had a big meeting where it was very clear once again that Netanyahu's running the country. You see Elon talking about that? No, this is a way for Elon to distract you from the fact that in one way or another, he's compromised and controlled by Israel. This is a fake way of trying to display independence.
Yeah, I think that is a good interpretation on the Elon side of things. I think also now that there is, speculation about, Charlie Kirk's falling out with the pro-Israel donors to his organization, I think it is important context to see that, yes, no, he was not a member in good standing with the types who run the ADL. And there is broad bipartisan agreement between the woke libs and the actual woke right on Israel. Like, this is something that I don't think a lot on the right really understand about an organization like the ADL. You have libs of TikTok referring people to the ADL to persecute and censor, right? Because they are an ally of Israel, as are many on the right, but they didn't really understand who they were dealing with. And a lot of people on the right are just very, very blind to just how woke they sound when they talk about this issue and this stuff. And just in general now, with the push to clamp down on free speech, they have just made absolute full embrace of the notion that words equal violence, right? That is a woke lib argument. They're the ones who have been making that argument. And I think that, you look, one of the things that's been revealed in all of this, and especially amplified by the investigations into Charlie Kirk's dealings with his Zionist backers, is just how Israel wins arguments by force. They don't win them through reason. They don't win them through debate. They don't win them in the ways that Charlie Kirk tried to engage people on these campuses by letting them talk and talking back. That's not how Israel argues. Israel argues by bullying people into submission. And that's what the ADL does. But that doesn't mean they're a right-wing organization. No, they're a lib organization. Because you know who else wins arguments by bullying? Woke liberals. And that's who the ADL are. And so it's this very strange, unlikely alliance between the pro-Israel right and the woke libs. And it just doesn't come to a head very often, because as long as they're talking about what they agree on, a lot of that conflict doesn't make itself known. But now they realize, oh, wait a minute, you guys called Turning Point's an extremist organization? Of course they did. They're liberals. And they're liberals. They're liberal Democrats. Of course they did. Yeah. So it's kind of it's just a very ironic story. It's an ironic story, but I think it is a good way of demonstrating.
Well, but this is also something we've been saying for a long time, that these Zionist Jews who see more allyship for their cause in right-wing reactionaries are really making a deal with the devil, because in the end, they are right-wing reactionaries. They don't like people like you. And a lot of them really don't like Jews, straight up. Not just don't like Zionism, don't like Jews. That was a marriage that was always doomed to an ugly divorce. And I think in incidents like this, which are increasing by the day, you're seeing that divorce starting to happen.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Let's go on to some more Rumble rants here. Let me see. Genitilla says, "Ho leaf hawk, and all I got for my awkward gesture was pregnant." Thank you, Gentilis. Ravid Laz says, "Alan Mizrahi would be a good guest. He's an anti-Zionist Arab Israeli who's on YouTube and Substack, has some interesting insights." Interesting. Thank you for that, Ravid Laz. Appreciate that. B Daily at Work says, "Russ, any chance of getting another New York City tour this autumn before your trip? Are you going to do a
You
Swan
know,
Song
man,
tour?"
I've been thinking about doing it. Probably. I will probably do it as like a one night only thing.
Yeah, it could be fun. Should do a Christmas tour and go Christmas caroling.
No. He's talking about the Halloween tour I did.
Oh, the Halloween tour. Oh, all right. Vianticus Prime says, "Everything's a scam, everything's a lie, everything's hypocrisy, and so I don't comply." Thank you. Dorian Marquis says, "Charlie Kirk mediated a call between Trump and Candace back in February. Macron was rattled by a little old Candace. Brigitte avoided a DNA test for 10 months. Their evidence is not independent." There you go. You're well versed in that.
That's my question. Like, are they gonna fake it? Like, how are they gonna do it? Are they gonna have her blood drawn there in the court, or are they gonna bring something in and then you don't really know if it's legit?
Right. Are
they gonna have a court appointed person take these pictures, or are they gonna bring their own, which could be from anybody's junk?
That's right. Yes, it could. It could be. Yes. Race Car says, "I heard a blue jay recently mated with a green jay, and they produced a hybrid kid. That's like making a cat dog." Thank you, Race Car. Appreciate that. Angel Garza said the Macrons only came up with the evidence of her being a woman a few days after Candace started questioning the official story. Just a weird coincidence. Thank you for that. All right, folks. We're going to read you a little bit of an ad here from John Koa, who has a new single out. It's called "Just a Little Off the Rails." John's been advertising with us for a while now. And this is the latest track from his upcoming new album, A to Z. So the core of these songs are the rhythm tracks from a collection of live acoustic performances between 2017 and 2020. John was going to release just the solo acoustic tracks, but didn't feel like releasing music while witnessing the same state of affairs we discuss right here on the show. So instead, he waited and continued recording because the world's so much better now, right? Now he's in the process of releasing these songs. Just a Little Off the Rails is the first single, and it's an autobiographical song featuring acoustic guitar, bass, vocals, and slide. So head over to his Spotify to check it out. John Koa, JOHNKOAH, dudissidents.com/Koa takes you to a link to all of his socials. So you can find it on whatever platform you'd like. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, your choice. dudissidents.com/Koa. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got over here. All right. Let's move on right on along. Okay, folks. Once again, movie night is tonight. The Conspiracy is the presentation tonight. It's going to be a great time. That'll be really fun. And so we hope patrons can all make that one. We'll do the scroll after this next segment here. All right, folks. So I do want to talk about the James Comey indictment. Little update here. J.D. Vance says there's more where that came from. More indictments where that came from. Just in, Vice President J.D. Vance fires back at leftists claiming a grand jury in Alexandria, Virginia, indicting James Comey is political. And so let's take a look at J.D. Vance.
With this, President Trump has said that the indictment of James Comey is justice, not revenge. There is pushback to that, of course, among Democrats, including Senator Tim Kaine, who is calling it a complete political hatchet job. The president has said, quote, there will be others. And in the past, he has listed Adam Schiff and Letitia James. Do you think there are more indictments coming, and do you think that's justified?
Well, there's certainly going to be more indictments coming over the next 3.5 years of the Trump administration, but we're always going to let the law drive this stuff and the facts of the case and not political motivations, which frankly makes us so much different from the Biden administration, where they indicted not just the President of the United States, but so many people who were just engaged in the basic job of politics, who were engaged in policymaking, who disagreed with the Biden administration, and because that they faced prosecution from that same administration. If you look at the Comey indictment, Martha, this was a grand jury indictment delivered in Alexandria, Virginia, not exactly a hotbed of Donald Trump's political support. There were three requested indictments. The grand jury returned 2 of those 3 indictments. So I think they showed they were judicious. I think that it showed clearly that there were a couple of things that James Comey did wrong. And to the people who are saying that this is all political, I mean, look, if you look at our track record in the Trump administration, there have been people who have been prosecuted, who have been political allies, who agree with our politics. There have been people who disagree with our politics. We're not letting politics drive this. We're letting the requirements of the justice system and the law drive this. And unfortunately for James Comey, when I look at this indictment, I see a guy who lied under oath, and he'll have his day in court. He'll have his opportunity to prove the other case in front of the jury. But the idea that this is driven by politics, I think is preposterous when you actually read the details of the indictment and the obvious fact that James Comey did lie under oath to Congress multiple times.
All right, we'll see.
All right. Well, I feel much better. I don't know about you, but that was very reassuring. Lisa Murkowski speaks out after Comey indictments. She's one of the moderate Republicans there, quote unquote. The Department of Justice has long been insulated from presidential administrations to protect public trust in the rule of law. But that independence is called into question when overt political pressure from the White House leads to unusual personnel changes and criminal charges filed just days after the president calls for them. Exactly. So we don't have to read the rest of that. But we do have to back things up here to September 20th when Donald Trump truthed this out here, which some people suspect was intended as a private text message to Pam Bondi. This is not the first time there's been speculation that he's accidentally tweeted something that he's meant to text. I've never done that. I don't know anybody who's ever done that. So why is the president doing that on repeat occasion? I don't know. Or is he? Or was this intended as public pressure? Only Donald Trump knows that, I suppose. Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Democrat senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that he had no case and that we had no case. So I fired him, and there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsey Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President Donald J. Trump. Okay, so you can see what Vance's saying, the fact that Alexandria, Virginia is not a hotbed of Trump support, that's a red herring, because obviously this personnel change was made with the intention of sneaking this indictment in right under the wire because the statute of limitations was to expire the Tuesday after this indictment came down. So we'll go into the case a little bit. Former FBI Director James Comey indicted following pressure from Trump. Former FBI Director James Comey was indicted Thursday, days after President Donald Trump publicly said that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi should prosecute him and 2 other political adversaries. The indictment includes 2 counts, making a false statement and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. Comey has denied any wrongdoing. The charges stem from testimony Comey gave on September 30th, 2020, 5 years ago today, during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. Asked by Senator Ted Cruz of Texas about testimony he gave in 2017, asserting he did not authorize the leak of information to the media about an FBI investigation into the Clinton Foundation, Comey said, "I stand by the testimony." Comey's deputy, Andrew McCabe, has said that Comey authorized him to leak information to the press, according to a 2018 Justice Department Inspector General's report. But the report also found that McCabe made multiple false or misleading statements. The statute of limitations for the charges was set to expire Tuesday. That's this Tuesday. Comey could face a maximum of 5 years in prison if convicted. Trump celebrated the indictment. Justice in America, says Trump. One of the worst human beings in this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation. Make America great again. Pam Bondi was more tepid in her tweet. Notice she didn't give the usual, "We will come for you, we will find you, we will go after you." She says, "No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case." So she does not seem as confident as Donald Trump, as evidenced by the fact that it took a push from Donald Trump for her to do this in the first place. So let's take a look at the testimony explained at the heart of the Comey indictment. So here is the exchange at issue. This is in 2020. This is Ted Cruz versus James Comey. This is what they're going after him for.
Never.
Oops, sorry. I got to cue this up. I forgot. There we go.
On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, "Have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?" You responded under oath, quote, "Never." He then asked you, quote, "Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration?" You responded again under oath, "No." Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So notice they're not going after Comey for that 2017 testimony because the statute of limitations on that has expired. So what they're going after him for is his recounting of that testimony. So when Comey says, "I stand by that prior testimony," that in itself, he could argue is not a lie because he's saying, "No, I'm telling the truth. I do stand by that prior testimony." Now, if that prior testimony was a lie, the statute of limitations is expired on that. So could they prosecute him for that? Right? That's a technical argument, but it's an argument that he may be able to make because they're trying to nail him on testimony about prior testimony that they can't prosecute him for because the time limit has passed.
Your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
On May 3rd,
See, so he's very careful about what he says. Yeah. He's very careful to say,
it's very lawyerly.
Very lawyerly. He's very careful to say, "I stand by that testimony." In other words, he's not asserting what he asserted in the prior testimony. He's saying, "I stand by it," right? Which is technically true. He stands by it. Now, if the underlying testimony is a lie, can you nail him for that? I don't know. Could be tough. Could be tough. Mr. Cruz was in turn recounting an exchange at a Senate hearing on May 3rd, 2017. At the time, Senator Charles Grassley, a Republican of Iowa, asked Mr. Comey whether he had ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation. Mr. Comey responded, "No." The 2017 exchange itself falls outside the 5-year statute of limitations to charge someone with making a false statement. So Mr. Comey is being charged for saying in 2020 that he stood by having said no, and that his testimony was the same today. In context, Mr. Grassley was clearly referring to the investigation into the Trump campaign's possible ties to Russia and to the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of an email server. So here's James Comey responding to the indictment, saying, let's have a trial.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
All right. Now, why the case against James Comey may end in humiliation for Trump's DOJ. So I'm going to give you a couple different perspectives on this and how it might go. All right. We're going to read the argument for and the argument against. The president's public pressure. So one way to get a case dismissed is to argue that it's the product of a selective or vindictive prosecution. It's notoriously difficult to have a case tossed on that basis because defendants must show that prosecutors acted on improper motives and influences. Well, that could be a common defense in the coming years, I have a feeling. Trump tried unsuccessfully to get his own criminal charges dismissed on these grounds before he returned to the White House. Now, here's where you have to say, regardless of the merits of this case, that, yeah, this is, of course, James Comey getting a taste of his own medicine. Glenn Greenwald did a video talking about how Comey basically tripped up Martha Stewart into prosecuting her for bullshit reasons because he thought it would be a good feather in his cap for his career. And I would argue he opted not to indict Hillary Clinton for the email server because he thought not indicting her would be a way to advance his career. So, you know, I'm not breaking out the violins for James Comey here. And, you know, this is very much him getting a taste of his own medicine. To me, that's not the most important part of the story, however. So, but in Comey's case, there is ample public evidence that the charges were not the result of prosecutors' neutral assessment of the facts. Rather, they appear to have been brought at the behest of a president seeking to use prosecutorial muscle to settle an old score. Some Trump supporters have argued that Comey lied when he said he stood by the earlier testimony because they believe Comey did authorize his deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, to leak information about the Clinton probe to the Wall Street Journal. Comey and McCabe have provided differing accounts of a conversation the two men had on the day after the Journal published a story on the probe, although there's no indication McCabe has ever claimed he got advance permission from Comey for any leak. So in other words, he's saying he got permission retroactively. So here is Republican Andrew McCarthy saying on Fox News, talking about being a wet towel on Fox News, saying, I don't think this case goes to trial.
I love Ted, but McCabe never said that Comey authorized it. What McCabe said was that McCabe authorized it. This is a leak to the Wall Street Journal. And then he told Comey about it later. The only way that you could convict Comey beyond a reasonable doubt is Comey would have to truly believe that he personally had authorized the leak. He would have to actually have authorized the leak, and then he would have had to know that he was lying when he denied it to the Senate. They're not even going to be able to prove that he authorized the leak because, by all accounts, he didn't. So I don't think this case even gets to trial.
All right, so then...
All right. So, yeah, you can imagine how that went over at Fox News. Yeah.
Or at Racket News.
Or at Racket News.
Go over well over there either.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, look, I mean, what seems to have happened with this indictment is that they kind of waited till the last minute and then realized, oh shit, our time is almost up. So we have to reshuffle the deck and hastily write, what was it, a 2-page indictment based on testimony about prior testimony. Seems just, characteristic of this administration, half-assed, put together at the last minute without much forethought, without much care for the truth of the matter. And so it seems as though these charges may not stick. But there's one more thing. I got to do a Columbo thing. There's just one more thing. There's just one more thing, unfortunately. James Comey could face more charges as DOJ sifts through evidence, but will the case stick? Well, talk about how McCarthy just took a giant shit in the middle of the Fox News studio. Michael Cohen does the same thing here on MSNBC. Michael Cohen once...
They got to switch studios.
They got to switch studios. Right. They're in the wrong studio. No, they're on the wrong TV show. Because, on Fox, you're supposed to say, oh, yeah, no, Comey is going to go away for life. And on MSNBC, you're supposed to say, well, this is a horrible politically motivated prosecution. Comey did nothing wrong. And Michael Cohen, ally turned sworn enemy of Donald Trump, comes out and says, basically, Comey is a scumbag, and whether these charges will stick, they have access to all his communications, and I'm sure they're going to find something. So let's hear from Michael Cohen, really just throwing a wet towel on the MSNBC studio.
Really know whether or not Comey is or is not guilty of the charges. I know that they parade out all of these pundits. They have the great titles in the Chiron, former prosecutor, yada, yada, former FBI. Who's seen a single document that's in the possession right now of the DOJ? The answer is nobody. Who has the crystal ball? Still nobody. I will tell you from my investigation, which I used Brian Karem, who's a 30-year White House correspondent, to speak to people inside government because they wouldn't talk to me. I've learned that Comey was actually very much involved in the Russia investigation in a very negative way. And chances are this DOJ has every single email, every text message, every communication. I believe likely he will be found guilty.
Oh, well, that's interesting because
I think likely
right.
Oh, well.
What? What specifically?
Now I actually have to use my brain and respond to you. I thought this was just going to be we all reinforce each other's opinion and we go to happy hour. No, now I'm going to actually have to engage.
That's funny. That's funny. Like it's definitely the bizarro world version of
the two studios. Yeah, like they couldn't believe he said this. Like could not believe that he said this. One more time.
Oh, well, that's interesting because
I think he likely committed a crime.
Wait, what? What
I believe likely he committed a crime. I don't know what that crime is, but there are hundreds of thousands of documents, and government has each and every one of them. All they need to find is that one.
This guy's a massive piece of shit. I'm sure he did something. That's basically what he's saying there. And he is pressed for clarification at a later point. This is a separate tweet. With the embedded video, and he ends up getting said clarification.
Now, is that the Department of what you're saying right now is that the Department of Justice under Donald Trump has been weaponized or has not been weaponized?
I think it's been weaponized under more than just Donald Trump. I think it's been weaponized by government for, I don't know, as long as it's been around.
Well, because I think your argument is it was weaponized then by Comey against Donald Trump. That's what you're arguing right now. And so you think...
Don't forget, this guy went to jail for Donald Trump because the DOJ was weaponized against Donald Trump. This guy should be like, yeah, I took it in the ass up in Otisville for 2 years because it was weaponized against Donald Trump. Believe me, I know. Believe me, I know.
Your argument is it was weaponized then by Comey against Donald Trump. That's what you're arguing right now. And so you think that there will be evidence that will show that in court and so thus validate Donald Trump's vendetta against James Comey.
At least I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, well, of course. Don't forget, you're talking to a guy who went to jail for Donald Trump because they weaponized the Justice Department against Donald Trump. So, of course, that's going to be his line. And look, he may be right. I mean, he's in the inner circle. His attitude is, yeah, there was dirty pool played against Donald Trump. Of course there was. Everybody knows there was. And now Donald Trump is playing dirty pool against them. Now, because this administration is so incompetent, they obviously just waited until the very last minute for Donald Trump to have a meltdown that the statute of limitations was expiring. And so they had to throw something together with toothpicks and bubblegum at the last second, which is what they did, which is why these charges may not stick. But on the other hand, yeah, Comey is a massive liar. Russiagate was a massive hoax. And the more they look around, the more likely they are to find something. And so my macro take on this is like, look, if all Trump were doing were sticking it up the ass of these deep state goons who made his life hell, I wouldn't like it. You know, I don't like the carceral state. You will never catch me in an inconsistency on this. I think prison is a last resort for everybody, whether they're left wing, whether they're right wing. I hated the way they railroaded the January 6 people.
You ever see a Norwegian prison?
Yeah, well, that's
not a prison. That's a retirement plan.
Right. Yeah, that's yeah.
I lived in Norway. I might go to Norway when I'm 65 and commit a crime.
Yeah, that's an old folks home. Exactly. Yeah. So like I hate it in every direction. I hate what they did to the January 6 people. I hate what they tried to do to the African People's Socialist Party. I am against, throwing people in jail unnecessarily unless you absolutely have to. To me, that's what jail is for. It's an absolute last resort. So I wouldn't like it if they were just doing this as a tit for tat. But you know what? I would tolerate it because, yeah, these people are scumbags. They did draw first blood. Like, what the Democrats did to the January 6th. I mean, those January 6 people were political prisoners. They were legit political prisoners. Jacob Chansley was a political prisoner. This was a guy with a documented history of mental illness. He's a documented schizophrenic. Video evidence showed he clearly did not intend to harm anyone at the Capitol. He's being escorted around by the cops. Clearly an unwell guy. And they railroaded him to make an example of him and tried to put him away for, 5-6 years? I forget the exact math because they counted, I think, time served toward the final sentence. But whatever. They tried to lock him up for a very long time. That's a political prisoner. So, yes, the Democrats opened this door. So if you wanted to settle scores by going after the people who did that, again, in principle, I wouldn't love it. I'm against jail in principle, but I could stomach that. But that's not what they're doing. They're clearly trying to make life hell for everyone who doesn't agree with every single part of their agenda. And this is a piece of that. Chris Hedges just wrote an article talking about how, they're likely to come for these high-profile functionaries of the liberal establishment first in order to chip away at the infrastructure that will be necessary to defend everybody else. And once that happens, it's open season on everybody. And if that weren't what their agenda was, I could, maybe slip a mischievous grin in about this. But that's not what this is. This is the first step towards just going after everyone you don't like. It's pretty obvious. And this is why I say, like, these people have just completely tanked their own credibility in every way. They have executed their mandate in such incredible bad faith across the board on the criminal justice front, on the Ukraine war front, which is now a complete 180, on the immigration front. There's a video, we're probably going to show it on Thursday. John Farina over at Status Quo got this, of this guy holding a sign outside the ICE facility talking about how, he knows this, young girl who's an autistic girl. She's got, mental problems, emotional problems. And her mother was just disappeared by ICE. And this girl cannot get by without her mom. Okay? Like, she can't function without her mom. This is, is a special needs kid who didn't do anything wrong, whatever her mother did. She's a child. She's innocent.
Should have thought of that before she got vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly. She's innocent by definition. And now she's being tortured because her mother crossed the border. So, let's say that mother has to be deported. There's not a way to do that in an orderly fashion so you keep the family together so that this poor autistic girl is not collateral damage. This is what I mean. You want to mandate. If you had just executed your mandate, you wouldn't be underwater in the polls right now, but they're not. They're abusing every facet of their mandate. And so that, to me, is what this is a part of, right? If it were just this, you could say, all right, yeah, fine. You know what? You want to harass Nancy Pelosi over her insider trading portfolio? Fine. If that's all you're doing, I don't think most people would shed any tears about that. But this is clearly part of a broader agenda, and it's a shame. It's a shame because this is like I said, they have just done everything in such bad faith that you can't even take pleasure when they stick it up James Comey's ass, which would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, put him and Michael Cohen together. They could stick it up each other's ass.
Yeah, they ruined a good time.
They might like that.
They ruined a good time.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem when one of these sides becomes ascendant that goes after the other. It's Freddy versus Jason. Who do you vote?
Downward spiral.
Who do you root for? It's monsters fighting each other.
Right.
Yeah. Comey is a piece of shit. I'm sure Michael Cohen is right. I'm sure you go through those files, you will find things that, although given the way he answered that question, he might have been smart enough not to leave much of a paper trail behind.
Well, he's a pro. That's the thing. He is a
pro. So they might not find much that would hold up in court. In theory, did James Comey weaponize the Justice Department? Was he always one of these people who went after high-profile prosecutions like Martha Stewart, where most people don't realize this. I didn't realize this until this broke, and I did some research. They didn't even prosecute her for insider trading. They did the same thing they did to Flynn.
Yeah,
they got him
on
false statement of the FBI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this was a common tactic of his, to go after a high-profile prosecution.
Oh, yeah.
Where he could get a lot of time in front of the cameras. And then if he couldn't get them on the underlying crime, he would get them on the interview.
Oh, this is what they do. The FBI, this is what they do. They trick people into incriminating themselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, prosecutors do that too. Like, most of these people are fucking scum.
Yeah.
And James Comey is not an exception. He's the rule. But he kind of mastered that game. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure in principle he's guilty of things. Given his level of skill in covering his tracks, I'm not as confident as Cohen. But, yeah, I mean, in principle, I'm sure he is guilty of crimes. I am sure every fucking crackpot in that cabinet is guilty of crimes. This is why you can't really get excited about it.
Right.
So who are you rooting for? Donald Trump? Stephen
Right.
Miller? Crazy Eyes Patel?
Right.
Tulsi, who's paying me? Well, that's my opinion.
Right.
Like, who here are you saying, oh, I'm rooting for them? And I'll tell you, man, it took a little crack at fucking compromised Matt Taibbi over there. But man, these people who, because they were so angry about Russiagate, and it's not just him, it's a lot of people, are gonna pump this up because they feel a certain personal vindication over it. Think about what Chris Ed just said. That's exactly it. Like, yeah, man, in principle, we all want to see these feckless liberals get theirs. But remember who's doing it and why. It has nothing to do with justice. So I think for a lot of people who are particularly, caught up in that issue in Russiagate, who were targeted by Russiagate, I get it, man. Like, it's very hard not to gas up these kinds of actions because these are people, especially if it personally affected you as a journalist or a commentator. But you got to think about what you're empowering. Like, I understand if you were put in that position, it's very hard to maintain your objectivity about it, but you can't just ignore who's doing it and what their motives are.
Right. And this is what I mean by you have to be conscious of whether or not this is being executed in good faith. Like if they were to come in and say, okay, you guys, I think the January 6th example is a powerful one because those were legitimate political prisoners. Like, they locked these people up.
Some of them.
For no reason.
Some of them. Not all of them.
A vast majority. I would argue a vast majority.
I would agree with that.
And even the ones who did something, who committed some offense, I think you could plausibly make a quasi-entrapment argument.
That they were goaded into being.
The whole thing was manufactured and they were goaded into it, right?
Sure.
So that's why I wasn't against his decision to just pardon them all. because you know what? Even the ones who were guilty, they were set up. They were clearly set up.
Right.
And if
Yeah.
somebody is entrapped, it means they're not guilty. So
Sure.
whatever. We're not going to spend years
Sure.
going through the paperwork while these people rot in jail for longer. So I'm like, that's fine. So like, if you want to say, okay, we are against the weaponization of the government against the American people, therefore we are going to find out what was behind these January 6th prosecutions, and we are going to get justice for those people, I think I would be all for that. Since like Chansley's lawyers were not allowed to see that footage of him clearly doing nothing wrong. So like if that footage was not withheld from his legal defense, he would have been found not guilty. Right. So like, yeah, you've committed a crime against that guy and held him as a political prisoner. So like, if you want to go and get justice for that, I personally would have no problem with that. But you can't say that out of one side of your mouth and then out of the other side of your mouth, making speeches about how you're going after the enemy within and declaring war on your own people, because that is weaponization of a kind itself, obviously. Right. And so this is what I mean. It's like you're just executing things in such bad faith that it's impossible to root for you, even where I might otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see here. Michael Castillo. There have been reports that Tyler Robinson's boyfriend has vanished and cannot be found. Maybe because he never existed to begin with, is completely made up. Free Palestine. It's the thing. Like so much of this. Like,
what are you talking about? Dylan Mulvaney's in a Broadway show right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Slinging Bud Lights. Jolly Man, Big Boy. Hey, Russ. Was Zionism a major part of the reason the Crusades occurred, or is it more broad than that? Any recommendations for further reading?
No, I mean, I'm not an expert on the Crusades, but that was really between the Christians and the Muslims.
It seems
at that time,
a long time ago.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Zionism as we know it, that's a late
century.
a late 19th century invention. Like this idea they're trying to sell that the whole diaspora of Jews around the world had been united by a vision of returning to Israel. That's total bullshit. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Like most, I mean, actually, the idea that the Jews scattered after the Romans destroyed the temple, that's not true either. Like there is no evidence for a lot of these stories. There is no evidence that there was a mass exodus of Jews out of Palestine after that. You already had a lot of trading colonies set up around the Mediterranean basin. Like there were already Jews all over the Mediterranean before 70 AD. Like this whole story that the Jews had to leave because of the destruction, it's bullshit. It's like most of the whole Zionist theory of their own history is false. It's a narrative that they made up. It's like cowboys and Indians, right? Like their story of this diaspora that longed for 2,000 years to return to Israel. It's nonsense. There's nonsense. There's no history to back that up. There's no archaeology to back that up. And if you look at the records, it actually contradicts that story.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just having some problem getting our supporter scroll going, but I think I did. So here we go. Yes, indeed. All right, folks. So, hey, if you like what we do here and you want to do more, if you want to help us do more, I should say, you could do more by becoming, you could do more, Are you doing enough for us? That's a question you should ask yourself.
We're not trying to make you feel bad. We're just saying,
Yeah.
if you're watching, maybe you should help out a little bit.
Ask what you could do for us. Well, what you could do for us, is become a member.
Yeah. A nice young man. I saw him on the subway platform the other day. I was on the phone with this one. He gave me $20. That's what I'm. That's a nice boy.
Be nice. Yeah, that would be nice. It would be nice if you could do that. DoDissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. Member perks include your name up in lights here on the show scroll. You'll also get an end credit on our upcoming Uhuru documentary. You get bonus content, including post-game live streams and Q&As. We do a weekly Q&A every Sunday night right here on Rumble exclusively. And you also get access to Film Club Night, which is one a month. We're doing 2 this month because our film shoot got rescheduled last month, so we weren't able to do one last month. And so tonight we are presenting The Conspiracy. We're doing a presentation on the great sort of indie found footage thriller horror film, The Conspiracy, which is really, really terrific. I can't wait to talk about that with all of you. We got a great presentation planned for this evening at 8 p.m. Emails have already been sent out, so members already have the email in your inbox. So if you would like to join, patreon.com/do dissidents for just $5 a month to get all those perks, plus the goodwill that comes with supporting independent media. You guys are the backbone of the show, and we thank you very much for your support. Okay, what do we got here? We got Smitty BKNY. Have you guys ever heard about the mysterious death of the South African ambassador in Paris? He fell out of a secure window at his hotel.
No.
No, I have not. I have not heard about that. All right, let's move right on along here. One more segment on the day.
All right, Theo Von is having a hard time of it. A lot of people are well disposed to Theo Von. He's a very rare figure in this space. Nobody really seems to dislike this guy.
Yeah.
So last night, looks like he had a bad set here in New York at the Beacon Theater. Saw Theo at Beacon Theater tonight for his Netflix taping, Double Ouch. 1/3 of the crowd walked out, myself included, and they seemed to keep coming. Worst set I've ever seen. Pandering to the dumbest 50 people in the room. Failure of epic proportions. And here's another negative review. Just came out of his 9 p.m. show. Started off strong, but it was a roller coaster that fell off at the end. There were multiple times where he would walk off stage to talk to someone or be in the middle of a story and forget where he was and restart. I absolutely love Theo, but to me, it seemed like he was on something, whether drugs or alcohol, and seems to be more than just nerves. So there's a little bit of video. This is the source it's getting around from, Dom Luker. Breaking, Theo Von has his fans worried for his safety after he reportedly bombed his show organized by Netflix at the Beacon Theater in New York and ended his set by claiming he is trying to prevent himself from self-deleting. So let's take a look at the video there.
I mean, I'm having a long month. I'm trying not to take my own life. So I just want to get these photos.
So he says, I'm having a long month. I'm trying not to self-delete. Let's hear that one more time.
I don't know what to tell you about that, man. I'm having a long month. I'm trying not to take my own life. So I just want to get these photos.
All right. So, of course, we wish him the best. We hope he's not serious about that. But Theo Von has been on quite a journey. So this was Theo Von. Most of you have probably seen this, but it's worth taking another look at. And the person who put this video together, this is when he asked J.D. Vance about the Epstein list and releasing it. And over that, you could see a tweet from Theo Von later. Yeah, what changed? So here we go.
List. Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Wait a minute.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Yeah, well, you know how that went. Now it's a Democrat hoax. I guess J.D. Vance is a secret Democrat. Now, this is in March. Maybe Candace is to blame for the radicalization of Theo Von, because she really blackpilled him in this interview.
People doing drugs and sleeping with underage people. So I think these are blackmail operations, and I think they've been going on for decades in America.
Speaking about...
All right, so you get the idea. So here's Theo Von. I'm not clear exactly when this interview was, but here he is at an airport. I think it was this summer. I don't think it was before that. And here he is talking about the genocide. By that time, he is completely on the side of calling what's happening in Gaza a genocide. He's also asked about Epstein here.
Donald Trump back on your podcast today. What's the first question you want to know?
Okay, when did he have Trump on?
It was before the election. Right.
Okay.
So
All right. So that's a while ago.
I think my things would be like why we're being supportive of the genocide in Gaza. Like, why are we helping with that? Like, I think it's making a lot of people feel really scared that it's like hurting our feelings. Like, why are we supporting that?
Yeah.
And then why wouldn't we come to the rescue of the people over there?
Didn't he say he'd ended on day one? I thought he sort of ended the war on day one, and some people feel like they regret their decision, or there seems to be a few people backing away from Donald Trump right now over what you're saying, and maybe Epstein as well. What do you think?
Well, I just think that, the Epstein thing, yeah, it's like I think people just don't believe that the government works for the people anymore. And it's really just like, and maybe it never has, right? But yeah, I think those are my thoughts. It's like, why are we being over there? When will we help to come to the rescue of the Palestinian people?
Do you feel like there's maybe a little bit of a shift, away from Trump, or at least like opposing some of the things he's currently doing? Do you feel like that
Well,
kind of shift?
it felt like it was supposed to really feel like America first, and I don't know if people are feeling that. I think people are feeling more nervous. I think there's that deal with Palantir for like a surveillance state. I feel like there's people in power that know where we're headed that aren't telling us, and I think that's just my feeling. I don't know what anybody else feels,
right?
But those are my feelings.
I think that's a really good example of why people have so much affection for him. He seems generally people who wind up in the position that he's in we were getting into this a little bit during the Q&A the other night about Erica Kirk and some criticism she gets, and Keaton was making the point, well, these people are very ambitious, and it's very hard for us to evaluate. Most of us are not in the headspace these people are in. And yeah, most people who make it to that level of the game, that's true. Every now and then you get somebody who falls ass backwards into a position like this. And I think something about Theo Von just screams he's kind of like a nice guy who wasn't looking to step over anyone in his way to get to the top, who wound up dealing with these criminals and gargoyles. And he seems like a basically good-hearted guy. And the more he realizes who he's dealing with, I think the harder it is for him to function in this world in good conscience. I think that's part of what's going on with him. And he doesn't know how to process it. So here he is, man, like very heartfelt, making the connection between the way everybody's been raised to consider the Holocaust this horrible crime, and at the same time being told to look the other way about Gaza. And it seems to be really getting to him.
Expect of the world. I mean, there's times where I'm saying my prayers and stuff, and I feel bad that I'm able to, say prayers in like a safe space and know that they're, that somebody's saying prayers into something that feels like nothing is going to hear those, and still it's like all that they have, or maybe all that they have.
That is all
do.
they have.
Yeah. I mean, there's times you feel bad about, there's times you feel bad about not being somewhere when something's horrible because you're like, because you know that somebody else has to be there. I don't know.
What made you start talking about this?
All you ever heard growing up from all these movies, all this stuff was like you couldn't even go to the bookstore at the airport with half the fucking books are about the Holocaust. It was chiseled into your brain. Yeah. And people are always like, well, I can't believe the people right outside of concentration camps never said anything, never sounded an alarm, never even whistled loudly. Right. So I'm like, motherfucker, what do you, if, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you see a fucking genocide, you know what I'm saying? You gotta say it.
Gotta say it.
And if you're not saying it, that's fucking crazy. That's crazy to not be saying it. Especially when you've been taught all your life, you're supposed to say it. So fuck that, man.
Yeah, this is MAGA's worst nightmare. A very likable dude saying 2 + 2 = 4 in a way that anyone can understand. So now I guess they haven't been paying much attention to the fact that they're losing Theo because they used him in a DHS ad recently, apparently without his permission. What it did. So when Theo got wind of this, he tweeted this out. You, DHS, I didn't approve to be used in this. I know you know my address, so send a check. And please take this down, and please keep me out of your banger deportation videos. When it comes to immigration, my thoughts and heart are a lot more nuanced than this video allows. Bye. And they did remove it, but the internet's forever, so it's pretty findable. And this was an exchange he had about this. Appreciate you speaking up, Theo. Nuance is important here. And he responded, it's crazy to me that they would think this is okay. What if someone attacks me tomorrow because they think I'm some final boss of deportations or something? That's a good point, too, especially in this climate.
Yeah.
And this is just a couple days ago. On Breaking Points, they did an interview about Gaza that was very emotional, and Theo must have watched it, and he quote tweeted it with a free and with the Palestine flag. Now, this him really, I mean, this is kind of heartbreaking, talking about how the whole like living his dream thing, it's not really making them too happy. We can only speculate on why that is. It's a common syndrome with people who get famous and find out it's not what they thought it was going to be. But it seems like there's something extra here going on with him, especially right now. So let's take a look.
Man, honestly, I just hit my knees and prayed. I just said, you know, God, I need some help, man. You know, I'm just so angry and I don't know why. I just got to get some help. I just got to start feeling better. And I'm not trying to complain. I don't feel good. You know, and I don't feel good. And I want to enjoy my life. You know, I want to be able to enjoy my life and be of service to other people. And I'm just having a tough time doing that right now because I don't feel great. I'm trying to take action. I'm trying to see a new therapist. I'm not ashamed to admit it, man. I want to enjoy my life. You know, I'm living out some of my dreams and I'm not enjoying it. And I'm just not enjoying me. I'm not enjoying being human. I think that there's more out there for me.
So this is some of the responses to the original video. We love you, Theo. Cancel shows, recordings, whatever you got to do, right? And step away for a minute if you need to, man. You're meant to be here. And Joshua Hartley here says, yo, Theo, you're a good dude. Don't take it so serious, man. We love you, bro. You can always reshoot with Netflix and burn the footage. Nobody dies because of a bad show, and all comedians have them. Good luck out there. See, you know how you know Theo Von is a good dude with a good heart? Because he's bothered by doing a good show. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan go up there and suck Donald Trump shit out of his asshole for an hour and a half and then go on his show and talk about being one of the 200 real comedians on earth, right? That is Theo Von. That's a real dude, man. But it looks like he probably had a bad show because of what he's going through. Now, again, it's kind of a cliche of fame, especially for sensitive souls, that the vicissitudes of fame will very often hurt people who are really good-hearted like that, just without any of these other things factored in. Then you have on top of it that this guy, I would argue naively, without the kind of cynical calculation of a Gunther Eagleman or a Benny in the Closet, kind of got co-opted into the MAGA space, but being a more authentic person, when things like the Epstein files, Nothing to See Here came up, he spoke out about it. And you could see there a bit of his evolution on Gaza as he talked more and more to people and looked at it. And look, anybody, especially you got an open heart, as this guy seems to be, anyone could see that shit is wrong. And so now he's in a position where he literally got to interview the president. And how do you handle that when you decide you don't like, I don't want to speak for him, maybe you don't like this president. Maybe you don't like J.D. Vance. Maybe you don't like any of these people. Maybe you think all these people are horrible people that you don't want to promote, but a lot of your image, a lot of your fan base is built around these figures. What do? I would be surprised if that's not part of the conflict. And then, frankly, what happened to Charlie Kirk? If you're out there speaking up more and more about this and you're in that space and you're perceived as influential, i.e., maybe dangerous to a certain cause, that it's dangerous to be dangerous to, that could be weighing on his mind too, man. We can only speculate, but he seems like a very good dude. And yeah, of course, we all wish him the best. I hope he was joking around in what he said on that stage. And, it's very heartening to see everybody who is, I didn't see one negative comment. Everyone is just basically like, yo, do what you got to do to take care of yourself. And certainly that's our take.
Yeah, obviously. I think, I think there's something wrong with people in this space who were not shaken up by the Kirk shooting. There's just a tremendous ugliness in the air since then, and there has been for a long time. But when an event like that happens, it is a reality check, and this is the point I've been trying to make for these past few weeks. Like, this whole space can be very toxic, which is all fun and games to people when the forum is an online chat room or a YouTube chat or a Twitter thread, but it's not fun and games in real life where people can be hurt or worse. And that creates a terrifying environment. I'm sure it is extremely stressful to be someone of that high a profile. And what you say is true. I'm sure just the tension between him and the audience must be palpable, given the fact that, I don't know what his numbers were and how they changed, but you got to imagine getting an interview with Donald Trump is going to get you a massive influx of new fans, and those are Trump supporting fans. So then when you have no choice but to tell the DHS, hey, knock it off, why would you put my face in an ad for deportations when that's not what I'm about? Now that you create tension there, and it's extremely stressful. It's an extremely stressful time to have to go out and nail an hour special for Netflix. That I would fucking probably have a fucking heart attack if I were him in that situation, much less bomb. I don't even think I could do it. I would probably just cancel it. I'm surprised he, I don't know if this is what's going through his head, but that just seems like impossible circumstances to go out and nail it for Netflix. These are extremely high stakes, make or break events, these comedy specials. Comics go out, they'll tour new material, they'll workshop new material for a year, and then it all comes down to one night where you got to be on, because this is the version of that show, that year of your life that you've been perfecting this piece. This is the night that it gets immortalized. And so you got to be on. And that's a tough thing to pull off under normal circumstances. This, where you have this high-profile assassination, which creates a tremendous tension and stress and fear in the air. I think anybody who's being honest will say they feel that when they step in front of a crowd now, if you're in this space. And that's one of the many horrible effects of the shooting.
Yeah.
Right. One of many, obviously. It's just the impact.
Yeah, maybe they use you for the next false flag.
Who the fuck knows, right? Who the fuck knows? Down to, the relationship between yourself and the audience when you start, pushing back on the people who probably, made you famous. Yeah, man, it's extreme stress. So not only do I not blame him for having an off night, I give him credit for trying. If it were me, I'd have postponed that. I'd be like, I can't do this now. And maybe he should have, but he'll get a second crack at it. And it seems like the fans are very forgiving, as they should be.
Yep.
All righty. Let's see here. Jolly Man Big Boy. Sorry, I was referring to Christian Zionism. Well, yeah, but that is, I understand what you're referring to, but that is a 19th century construct there. It was, It's actually a secular anti-Semitic construct by anti-Semitic Europeans.
Yeah.
That's
like they're
ironically what it is.
they're not religious, but they use the religion to hide behind.
Right. Exactly. Jolly Man Big Boy says if they don't F the wall based on their nervous tics, it's clear the wall F's them. Thank you. Andy Gardner, maybe Theo is just traumatized because the massage shit in his bathroom. Not cool, honestly. I hope he's okay. He is the guy Rogan pretends to still be. Thank you, Andy Gardner. Appreciate that very much. Vienticus Prime says, can we all just agree that ADL actually stands for always destroying lives? Thank you, Vienticus Prime. Appreciate that. All right, that is our show. Oh, let me see. Did I miss one? I may have missed one because we don't have our app working properly. If I missed it, I owe you $1. It was a $1 super chat, so I'll get you next time. All right. Well, that is our show. Thank you guys, everybody, very much for being here. Members, we'll see you at 8 o'clock for Film Club. It's going to be a fun one. And then everyone else, we will see you back here on Thursday at noon Eastern. Until we see you again, thanks to the YouTubers and to the Rumblers. Thanks for the mods to keeping the peace in the chat. Oh, did we hit this? We did, of course, reach 666. Let's make sure we do that before. All righty, everybody. Got that one in right under the wire. Appreciate you all, as always. Thanks for spending the afternoon with us. Film Club tonight for patrons. Everybody else, we'll see you noon on Thursday. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.